What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday. My name is Jeff Gerstmann, and I'm here to host this week's edition of The Jeff Gerstmann Show. It's March 21st? Let's call it March 21st. Right? Is that right? I don't know anymore. I can't tell. It says here, that's what Windows is telling me the date is. But do I trust... Do I trust the Microsoft Corporation to tell me what day it is? They should sell off their rights to have a calendar. They have a monopoly on the time of day. We've got to put a stop to this. I only trust NIST. No, I don't know. I don't trust anything. I want to get a clock because I don't have one in here. I need to get a studio clock. You know, big red numbers, big old clock, battery operated, because I want to put it on a wall. And I don't feel like running cables, you know. And all the ones I've seen so far from the, let's call it 20 seconds I spent looking, were needed to be plugged in. And I have yet to buy a clock. But that's on the list. That's on the list. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hi. It's another week of video games and entertainment with a computer. You know, those are the various sorts of things you can do with a computer. What can you do with a computer? What are the 5 things you can do with a computer? You can play video games. You can read about video games. You can watch other people play video games. You can research the next video games you're interested in playing and watch hardcore pornography. Like those, that's pretty much it, right? As far as I can tell, that's all I don't know. That's all I use my computer for. I have to sneeze. Oh. Woo! Ouch. You ever bite your tongue on a sneeze? Like the back side of your tongue? Like the side of your tongue? No? That's just me? My mouth is laid out weird? All right. Well, so be it. I got some good news. I was on the Insert Credit podcast. We recorded that last week. I think it just went up yesterday. That is available now. You go search your podcast holes for Insert Credit, the colon, the podcast. I don't know. I am on there. That is always fun. With Frank Cifaldi and Tim Rogers and Alex Jaffe and Brandon Sheffield and a good group. And gosh, I got a weight lifted off of my shoulders talking to Frank, because I brought up the cartridge dumping quest that we tried to go on a couple weeks ago. My tongue is bleeding. That's how hard I bit it. From that, my mouth is filling with blood because I bit my tongue while sneezing. Why? How do people stay alive? If this is how it's go, we've got to do something about this. I got Old Faithful here. I went back to my roots here. I grabbed a can of Rockstar Pure Zero Fruit Punch. Sharp-eyed listeners will know that this is the number one drink on the list because I deserve it. That's why. Yes, Frank called my Bubsy plushie filthy. But hey, it was free to him and his foundation. So clean it up. Clean it up, god damn it. Wipe it down. And yeah, no, that's a lot of the stuff in the garage has not been treated with all that much care over the years. It's just, yeah, so yes, it's unsurprising that the plush Bubsy got a little bit dirty. But I just mentioned offhand that I was dumping and I was going to take some pictures of Super Famicom cartridges and all that and all that process and how we tried to do it and the carts were too dirty to dump. Named my autobiography. And Frank said, no, that's all they have. Everyone has all that. There was a list, there's something like leaked out of Nintendo that was like a master list of everything that exists. Like, no, those are out there. And and one of the foremost names in game preservation said, no, you're good. I was like, oh, cool, man. I can just get rid of this shit now. And so I'm pretty excited about that. At least the Super Famicom games, we don't need to dump. I finally got my cleaners. The shipment got delayed. I decided after a couple of folks in chat mentioned this, I decided to go with these. I have not tried them yet, but they're called the 1-Up card, which I was like, I want hardcore chemicals and cleansers. I do not need cutesy video game themed cartridge cleaners. so initially when people were like, get these 1-Up cards, I was like, there's no way these can be any good. These look like absolute garbage. But I don't know. It's got some it looks like it is 99% isopropyl and a bunch of kind of stiff little jobbies in here that you jam in the cartridge and use to rub them down, and it looks like it conceptually looks sound. So I have not had time to try it yet, and now I don't need to, at least on those cartridges. I've got plenty of dirty carts. Don't you worry. I've got plenty of filthy, dirty, gunged. What were we talking about? Anyway, my mouth is still filling with blood. This is fine. It mixes well with the Rockstar Fruit Punch. I'll say there's no sting on the cut on my tongue. I can't even really tell where the blood is coming from anymore. And but I can tell you, I love the taste of it. I need more. The 100 Gecs album finally came out last week. And it's fantastic. It's just fantastic. When they announced the release date, it seemed like like 6 months ago. I don't know when they announced it, but I remember having a feeling of like, my God, that's a billion months away from now. There's just no way. That is too long. And then like 5 days ago, I saw something saying like, oh, by the way, the Gecs album's out on Friday. I was like, oh shit, really? Fuck, we made it. God damn it, we made it. It's a very exciting record. I don't know, 100 Gecs, if you're not familiar, it's a duo. Gosh, they get tagged with a genre label called hyperpop a lot, and it's a weird it's kind of a weird genre name. It doesn't feel real. I don't think, so many genres aren't like real, right? Like the artists themselves are not necessarily coming up with these names for these genres. That stuff's just getting slapped on a movement, slapped on a sound, and going like, that's hyperpop. And I feel like whatever you think of as hyperpop these days, it is transcending that sound, which hyperpop, I guess, trying to think, what is the indicative sound of like generic standard hyperpop these days? It's pitched up vocals. It is electronic in nature, but obviously with a pop edge to it, not necessarily just full on, it's not drum and bass or something, is it freeze pop 20 years later? Is it if you put freeze pop in a digital locker and aged it? But I don't know. There's more of an edge to it. I guess a lot of it anyway. Anyway, 100 Gecs is really exciting music to listen to, and for a variety of reasons. Some of them for me are really like quite personal. This album's all over the place. It's like 20 minutes long, and the number of genres it touches on along the way is really impressive. Like, it fucking moves. It's like 10 songs. Each song is like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, or 10 or 11. It's a number of tracks. But all the songs are so fucking short. It just fucking goes, man. It moves so fast. And like, they dip into a lot of different stuff. There's like, you'll have like new metal bits in there and you'll have, just like hip hop beats hit here and there. And, and then there's like a significant amount of ska tinged music on here as well. And that's the part that gets me, man. This is so, like when the last time I made music on a regular basis was like 2005 or something, 2006. And so like I guess like the music I was making back then, we were trying to be anything. We were waking up on Sunday and going like, let's make a song, and then we would make a song, and then that was about it. Like, start to finish, we would record something. Sometimes we would put it out immediately. Sometimes we would sit on it until we had, 17 or 18 of them and then put them out or whatever. And the thing that we became pretty obsessed is not the word, but like among the things we were chasing was this idea of electro ska. Electro ska is what we would only half jokingly refer to it as. And it was this idea of just like, man, no, like, because, like Chris and I had both been in bands that had kind of, I don't know that Chris had ever been in a band that was a ska band, but like we were sitting down as a duo, we were sitting down and going like, okay, we're going to knock out a song right now. And the early songs took 90 minutes. And then as we spent more time, as we did it more often, it took longer and longer and longer and longer. And so until it like it reached a point where I was obsessing over like the littlest sound here and there, and it just wasn't fun anymore. It was like, then suddenly it was like I cared too much about it, and that kind of ruined the whole thing. But when we were just like knocking out songs one a week, basically, it was super fucking fun. And we would go like, oh yeah, let's fucking, okay, go steal Jack's guitar and play it on this. We'll plug it in direct, and we'll throw an amp simulator over it or whatever. And Chris was primarily a bass player, but he could play some guitar just fine as well. And so it was like, he would play some live bass, I would throw a bunch of drums on it. We would do, just like start mixing it and layering it. And if the lyrics were bad, we would put a bunch of effects on it and just go like, whatever. The actual words don't matter. It's more the vibe and the overall sound of how those lyrics come off. And that worked. But like I wanted to, we never cracked the nut of the ska thing, the electro ska thing. There's one song we did called Go Go Vietnam, but that's a little too literal in that I used a bunch of horn samples on it. And it's a little, it's a little obvious, I guess I would say, in the grand scheme. And so the part of me, like that, when I think about the time I spent doing all of that stuff and what we were pursuing, I listened to 100 Gecs and just go like, God damn, man, they fucking did it. I like, it's not like I'm not sitting here going like, I could have, it's nothing like that. It's like I listened to that and I'm like simultaneously blown away, jealous, like all this stuff is just like, man, they really know how to use these tools really well. They have a wide variety of musical tastes that they can draw from, and they are able to execute those ideas in the studio. And that was always the problem I had, is like, I just, I would hear a thing in my head and go like, I got to get this out. And I would start to get it out. It wouldn't sound quite the way it sounded in my head, but it would sound cool in a different way. And so it would take the song in a different direction. And yeah, so like, I think 100 Gecs is fucking incredible. I think they're fucking incredible, man. Holy shit. And and this new record is just fucking fantastic. And it's really, I've been listening to it pretty much nonstop, but it's basically like, this is the thing that, like, if I had a little more inspiration and a little more time and a little more skill and a little more knowledge, that maybe that's a direction that, that would have been an amazing place to end up, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so, like, I listened to that and go like, man, that's because we started when Chris and I started, it's called Midnight Brown was the name of the band. When we started it, it was a mix of like, okay, we are hungover on Sunday and we wanted to start a band. We went through a few different iterations of it. We were originally just going to write music. We were going to write songs, and then we were going to hand them off to, we had this idea of we were going to be pop Svengalis, and we're going to find, younger girls to sing them. We're going to write a bunch of songs and then pass them off to, and then they're going to sing them, and then we'll stand off to the side of the stage like this, just going, ha, 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 ha. And we had a conversation. This was the MySpace days. I remember we were telling our plan to this dude, and he's like, I know 2 girls would be perfect for this. They're both named Raina. I'm like, that's perfect. I don't know. I don't need to know anything else about them. That's perfect. We had a phone conversation or 2 with them. It never went anywhere. Then we were like, let's start an emo band. That'd be hilarious. And we fucked around with that a little bit, but I don't have the instrumental skills to hang in that kind of, like, I can't, like, I'm not going to sit here and jam or whatever. And so we just started sitting down at the computer and putting things together, and then getting the gear. Like, one of our roommates worked at a music store, and so it was easy to get our hands on gear and whatever else we needed to we need to plug this bass guitar into this computer and make it not sound terrible, and whatever else. And so we just started doing it ourselves, and then it just got weirder and weirder and weirder from there, and it was fun as hell. So I guess, like, that's my review of the 100 Gecs album. 10,000 Gecs is, it's fun as hell, and like I'm so impressed with what they put together. I'm jealous of, like, their skills vocally and just the musicianship and all of that. And I think a lot of people listen to it and go like, there's no way anyone like no, it's great. It's fucking awesome. I don't trust anyone that listens to it and goes like, this is just joke music. Like, I don't have room for that in my life. So yeah, super impressed with that record. They put out a few songs before the album came out as well that are pretty good too. And yeah, I don't know. So I've been listening to that kind of nonstop. And it's great. And now I don't have to dump these Super Famicom carts. That's awesome too. So yeah. In the world of video games, what is going on? WWE 2K23 came out. And I don't, whatever, right? I'm not going to have another hour-long dissertation on wrestling video games. I just don't have it in me. They're just not good. I understand that some people like them and some people actually like playing them. I think they're wrong. It's fine. And this one builds on the one they did last year, which is a significant improvement over the shit that they did before. Obviously, like, the last 2 years of that game have been quite a bit better than some of the stuff that Ukes was doing there near the end of their run. Obviously, those games became known as being incredibly buggy. This game, I haven't seen any huge bugs. I haven't seen any, like, referee arm loop around the ropes and falling down, like all the cool broken shit that I honestly miss from those days. Like, that was the most exciting thing about the the WWE video games was that they were like borderline fucking broken. Yes, TH quality, but also a little 2K quality as well. 2K inherited a pretty broken video game, but I don't know, they've dug themselves out of that hole, right? And the game is like competent and not actively broken, and now I think it's just boring. So yeah, but like it made me realize, like, that, you know, it further focuses that the thing I want out of wrestling games is more and more creation tools. And I think that I really wish they would bring back the story creator from like 2K13, 2K14, whatever the last one of those was. The stuff that VGCW used on their streams, the stuff that Ghost Problems was born out of, the ability to just like write machinima, to write like elaborate wrestling storylines, or I guess I should say elaborate storylines that involve wrestlers and people getting hit with cars and so on and so forth. I wish that there was more of that in there. It's cool to see. Yeah, there's plenty of people creating wrestlers. There's a really good MJF in there. I haven't checked in 3 or 4 days, but I guess I just, I wish that they would bring that, and they should, because unless the WWE doesn't like it, unless they're just like, no, you keep doing that and people keep making our wrestlers say racist stuff, or whatever it is. I wish that they had that whole story creator back in there. And also, I think that like having that in there makes for such amazing videos of the game, and sending those around and sharing them around are some of the coolest things you can do with those, so I think it would benefit them in a social media viral whatever kind of way, to let players have tools like that. But it seems like they're focusing more on like, what if we had FIFA Ultimate Team but for wrestling, and you could spend real money to buy packs of cards? Like, oh yeah, I guess I see why that might be in the game, and maybe not the fun and cool and weird story creator. I guess I could see why some man with a pencil behind his ear, and I don't mean Sanjay Dutt, is going like, we should sell more packs of these cards. So yeah, it's frustrating, because honestly, I have no inroad into this game, I guess I would say, because I don't like playing it, and a lot of it is built around you playing the video game, unsurprisingly. But if they had that story creator mode combined with all the creation tools for making your own characters and importing graphics and all the other cool shit that they put into this game, I would have an amazing inroad into this franchise. It could be something I feel like I could spend hundreds of hours with if I was just like, I'm going to download these created characters, and then I'm going to write this ridiculous story, and then I'm going to record it and put it out there. Like, I would love to spend a bunch of time doing stuff like that. And it's the sort of stuff that makes me want to like just grab a PS3 or something and get 2K13 on it or whatever, and mess with that stuff again. Obviously, their online servers are long gone. But yeah, I wish it had that in it. That would be a really awesome thing if they went ahead and put all that in it. I've got a video of myself spending a bunch of time with it up on YouTube. Get it while it's hot. I don't know. I uploaded it, and then it got a bunch of music hits because they have a big licensed soundtrack in there. There's like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Metallica, everyone's favorite. Everyone's favorite streaming band. They love the internet. Those guys. Lars, big on downloading. And so whatever, got hit with a bunch of music stuff, but that's like whatever. Like, of course, the thing that surprised me, the thing that actually knocked it offline after I uploaded it, was like, hey, you've got footage of WWE ECW One Night Stand 2006 in this video, and that's ours, and you can't have it, and so your video is blocked worldwide. And That's stupid. It's your goddamn video game. It's your fucking video game. So, you know, you can go through a process. The process is not great. But you can go on YouTube and say, nah, man. I think that there's just a checkbox that says, nah, man. Nah, man, I'm cool. Don't worry about it. And so I checked all those boxes and hit the submit button, and that puts it back up online. And then some robot has to look at it within 30 days and decide if it can live on the internet or not. And so it may go down again. I don't know. I had to go through this with that PlayStation VR 2 video because Gran Turismo had licensed music in it, and so that took it down. But then when I hit the buttons that said, no, I'm good, it's cool, man. When I checked the it's cool, man boxes, it went back up and stayed up. Or at least it's been up so far. So I assume this will go through the same process, and someone will go like, that's part of our video game. That is part of our video game. You're right. That's yeah. That's if you're reviewing our video game, then I suppose that is fair use. Goddamn, pal. So anyway, that video is up on YouTube. I was able to download some characters and, you know, do the thing I've been waiting to do for years, or the thing I've been threatening to do for years, and that's reunite the Kingstons, Kofi and Eddie, get them back together. You know, it's always nice when a tag team, you know, can be brothers. Obviously a big theme of WrestleMania, you know, with the Usos, and of course Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are apparently brothers now as well. So it would be nice to, you know, having Kofi and Eddie back together. I think that's a real winner. So go check out that video if you like dumb shit, and if you like me scrolling through the entire roster and having something to say about each person on the roster. The Diablo IV beta happened this weekend, and I played it. I got the chicken. It was terrible. I played the beta. It was really good. I really like Diablo 4. It's but also I don't think I'm going to play any more of the beta, and I don't think and I'm unsure about a handful of things about that game, but not like those are things that might hurt it from being a 500-hour game as opposed to a 50-hour game or something like that, right? Like, there's stuff about the skill tree. There's stuff about the, you know, as you're kind of building your character that I was like, I'm having fun. I'm having a really good time building this out and everything. But then I hit like level 7 or level 10 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I've completely remade the barbarian that I played for hundreds of hours in Diablo 3. Like literally the same skills. I was like, cool, man. Like, that's awesome. But also, boy, I've done a lot of this. And, you know, so I think if I end up touching the beta next weekend at all, I'm going to start a Rogue. I was talking to someone who played Rogue and said like, hey, Rogue's pretty fun. So maybe I'll give that a go. But it is, I don't know, man. It is, so it's got this Eastern European kind of setting, and, you know, you kind of start out in the snow. I really like the way the game looks, but not so much. When the game opened, I was like, this looks kind of bad, because you're out in the snow and it's nighttime and there's a snow storm happening, and so everything looks very gray in a weird way. Like the lighting looks strange. There's just a lot of stuff about it that right off the bat I was like, this doesn't look good. What the heck's going on? And then after a few, like, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, you're in your first cave, you're in your first dungeon, you know, you're in your first like dank cellar. And I think all of those areas look fucking great. There's like a great, like, there's a great wet cave. There's a filthy damp cave. And I love the look of the wet cave, like the wetness of the walls and floor. Like, your character is kind of a light source. And so when the direction you're facing in, it's almost like they have a tiny flashlight on them or something. But like, you know, your character casts light into the environment in the direction that they're looking. And so that will cast shadows as you're looking at objects, and the shadows will kind of dance around as you rotate. And I think that lighting, the way that the damp cave glistens as you walk around and everything there. I just think it looks so good. There's a sharpness and a fidelity to the textures that some of that stuff you go like, do they go and do the photogrammetry thing? They go out and take pictures of wet caves. They're just like, we need a picture of a muddy puddle, and then we're gonna tile it all over the floor of this fucking thing. Whatever it is, I think that there's just a lot of awesome looking lighting in that game. Someone in chat just said they're going to add ray tracing post launch, which is cool. Like, I think the lighting looks really good right now, but yeah, sure. If they can do more with it and whatever else and put reflections in and some of that other stuff, I think that would be tremendous, because I think when that game looks good, it looks fantastic. Just the environments and stuff, the enemies and all that. Yeah, it's like, hey, it's a skeleton. It's a tree man. I think the skeletons and tree mans look fine, but I think the real standout for me was just the world itself, especially when you're underground. When you're outside, there's a bit of a day-night cycle, and some of that looks good, and some of it doesn't. The towns are the towns; they look okay. But I thought that the innards, the indoor areas in that game, I thought looked really nice. And playing it, I played Barbarian because that's what I played a lot of in Diablo 3, and I really liked Diablo 3. Way more than I maybe thought I would. So, like, when Diablo 1 and 2 came out, they were obviously huge video games, right? Like, I'm not like, hey, guess what? I don't know if you know this, but when Diablo came out, people seemed like they were pretty into it. But, like, I played those games to completion and then stopped. I was not interested in starting additional characters or continuing to grind on Diablo 2 or whatever else. I played them. I beat the devil. I fought the devil man, whoever. And I was like, hell yeah. All right, cool, man. Let's go do something else. There's something. Can I play? Is there other video games? I could go back to playing Dark Sun. I don't know. Whatever it was. Diablo 3 though got its hooks in me in a different way, and I just found myself like, because they had a lot of different, like, hey, here's a dungeon you can spawn and go into, and it's gonna be this random thing with a random tile set, and it was fun to just go through and grind away at stuff, get new gear, and just always be leveling up, always be earning Paragon points and all the other stuff. And I had a really great time doing that. Not to the extent that I was creating seasonal characters and some of the other stuff they did to try to extend Diablo 3's, shelf life. I didn't get into it that deep. But when they added new meaningful content, when they're like, hey, we got a new class and a new act, and I was like, fucking hell yeah, man. Let's go. And so I played a lot of Diablo 3. And loved it. Loved it. People, especially at launch, people were like, this game is fucking garbage and terrible. I was having a fantastic time with that game, even at launch. They improved it a lot along the way, I will grant you. But when that game came out, I was into it. I liked the way it looked, everything else. Like, people were like, it's all rainbows and what. And like, it was not. And B, it was nice to have a colorful world in some situations there. Whereas Diablo 4, parts of it feel almost like a reaction to that, where it's like, darker. I don't know. And the situation seems fairly grim in Diablo 4, as it always does, but they get to it a lot faster in 4. Like, it opens with just like, there's demons. They're going to take over the world if someone doesn't stop them. You ate the demon's blood, and so you can commune with the demons in a way that we can't. So you should probably go kill 1 billion skeletons and try to figure out what the fuck's going on. And you're like, okay. Let's go. And yeah, so I don't know, like you look at Diablo 4 and you open up the skill tree, and at first blush I was like, oh, that's a proper skill tree. That's not the way of like, hey, you hit this level and now you unlock this skill. Like, Diablo 3 was very set. Like, you could build your loadout, but you had to gain the levels to get the skills and the modifiers to do so. You didn't really have a ton of choice there. So Diablo 4 is more like, here are the skills for this type of slot. Spend it how you see fit. You want to go back to the previous shit and buff up your basic attack? Do that too. Whatever. But at the same time, at least on the Barbarian tree, it's the same types of skills. And looking at it, like, I inadvertently recreated my fucking Diablo 3 barbarian almost exact. Like I didn't have the ultimate ability by the end of my time with it, but it was definitely just like, oh, whoops. Well, I don't know. Spinning in a circle and murdering everything is fucking cool. The spin to win barbarian is fucking awesome. It's just fun to do. Stomping your foot down and stunning enemies is cool, and they fall over, and you're just clubbing them over and over again as they're falling over, and you're like, fucking fuck you, man. And it's fun. I don't know. It's fun. Also, I found myself, so I got to like level 20. I think you can get to level 25 in the beta, but at level 20, you get whatever items they're giving away for playing the beta. If you level up to level 20, you'll get the cosmetic backpack or something. I forget what it is. And so I hit level 20 and I'm like, cool, man, I think I'm good because none of this matters. This is not my character. This will all be deleted. None of this loot is really mine, quote unquote. And so who gives a shit? And so I don't know that I have, other than kind of wanting to try out a rogue or something and mess around with some of the other classes a little bit, I don't know that I have a ton of reason to go back to the beta. That said, it did its job of like, I played it and went like, yeah, this is fully a fucking game I will absolutely spend a lot of hours with. I will over years of time, I will end up accidentally playing, 300 hours of Diablo 4. So they'll be like, oh shit, whoops. Well, I don't know. This is fun. So whatever. Yeah, it's a pretty good time. So this weekend's beta is open to everyone. So if you didn't pre-order the game or you didn't want to fucking reward the chicken monsters with an order, I still never got my money back from them, by the way. When I filed my thing that said like you did not deliver my full order, and yet the delivery fee was $8, and that seems ridiculous. Colonel Sanders owes me, I'm gonna say somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $10. $6 cash, $10 credit, something like that. Or I'm going in there and I'm going to pee on something. I don't know what, but something's getting peed on until I feel I've redeemed myself. The other thing about Diablo 4 is I kind of don't, I don't really care about the story. I just, I played through the Diablo 3 story and it was fine. And I think because of the way they structured the achievements and stuff in that game, I found myself reading, or at least like clicking on every possible conversation and all of that shit. Because there was a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, in Act 3, you read all the fucking dialogue. And so you got ping, and here's a little another thing. And now you can decorate your flag. And I'm like, I'm never going to decorate my flag. I don't care. But that was enough of a hook to get me to at least click on that shit. This time around, I'm not sure that I will. We'll see how it goes. But like, the angels and demons thing, like there's a quest in this beta where it's like, you need to cleanse yourself of sin, my son. And thus, you need to seek an audience with the high priest or whoever this guy is. You need to go and do this and carry this statue of darkness from place to place while you think about your sins. And it just made me realize, like, I like the whole crusade, the whole, like, angels versus demons, all of the, when it's like, hey man, we're murdering demons. Why are you murdering demons? Because they're demons. I'm like, yeah, man, cool. Let's get this shotgun and go. When it's like, we need to, when it gets just a hair more religious, I guess. It's fairly non-denominational, I'll say. But like there is something about that was just like, I'm just not into this. I'm not interested in cleansing myself of sin, if that makes any sense. And so I think like the vaguely biblical kind of religious, like we've got to, humanity hangs in the balance. And we've got to go see the high priest and make sure that she will bless you for this. I was like, yuck. And the music as well. I think also, having this beta start the same weekend that the 100 Gecs album came out, I was like, I'm going to turn this music down and do this because, so I did another thing. So the music in Diablo 4, it's fine. I don't know. It fits the tone of the game, which is grim and it's fucked up and there are a lot of skeletons to smash. And so there's, there's a certain type of music that I think people go with that, and it's the song "The Most Wanted Person in the United States." It's track 8, I think it is. No, whatever. I think the music is fine. I also am probably going to turn it down and listen to something else, which I don't normally like. For as much as we talk about podcast games and so on and so forth, I don't actually do that all that often. Usually because like I'm thinking about games, games are kind of like the one thing that I tend to really focus on, and try to give my full attention to in their intended form, because I speak about them. And so that's kind of been beaten into me. It's been ingrained into me. That's just like, well, I should be able to speak about the music in the game. And so, you know, when custom soundtracks came along and everything else, I was not always able to partake, because usually I was like, well, I need to write a paragraph about the soundtrack in this game. And so I should listen to this game and see how it comes off and whatever else. So, but in playing this beta, I was like, oh man, I don't want to listen to, I don't really care about the music, and I don't really care about the story. But I had an amazing time with it, and like I said, I fully intend to play like quite a lot of it, which, you know, is maybe a weird dichotomy there, especially because this game seems like it has more kind of like panache. It has more style in its cutscenes than some of the previous games have. You know, it's not just like, hey, sit in this isometric perspective while Deckard Cain talks to you. Instead, it's like, oh, you know, there's a reason why you chose your character's eye color. It's because we show them quite a bit in these cutscenes and whatever else, you know. And so there's definitely some work that went into all of that. But I don't know that I'm going to experience a lot of it, because I feel like I'm just going to read quests like, oh, go here, smash this. Great, let's go. Do I get a new club for doing it? Like a mace or something? Do I get like a big axe? Do I get 2 smaller axes? That's even better. And, you know, just, and so I just kind of want to get in there and smash shit. I play with the controller. The PC version has controller support this time. They balanced it in such a way that they feel comfortable doing that. That was always the reason I think they gave as to why they didn't, because when, you know, obviously Diablo 3 came out on consoles, but they added a cool role in it that was super fun, and this doesn't have that, which is kind of a bummer. But I just imagine they figured out like, oh, this balances it between mouse and keyboard players and controller players and whatever else. But I just want to be able to do 6 somersaults through barrels and make them blow up. Like that was what I liked doing in Diablo 3. So, you know, it's a bummer. There's a lot of that. Or you can't really roll around. You do have an evade move that you can do, but there's a cooldown on it that kind of ruined the fun. It's got one of those fun title systems where you unlock words, like first words and second words, and so then you can assemble them into dumb things like nocturnal trash or apprentice rubbish, you know, whatever else. Those are the only ones that are any good. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. That game's out in June, and that's going to be that's a busy time, right? Because that's going to be Diablo, Street Fighter 6, and then whatever is happening with E3 is happening like immediately after all of that. And yeah, so that'll be a hairy time. It's exciting. That's actually that's freaking. That's like under 3 months away now. Now that we're at the end of March, it's really kind of nuts that this stuff is all just about to happen. The year is already getting away from us. The other thing I spent some time with was the console version of Trackmania. Ubisoft is doing a technical test of that you could sign up for, and I finally got a code for that and played Trackmania on a PlayStation 5. It's good. It seems like that they are limiting the game on console just a smidge. I can't really tell if that's just because of it being a technical test, or whatever. But, you know, it being a console, like consoles are a little more locked down. And so I'm going to guess you're not going to be able to connect to player run dedicated servers in the console versions of that game, which is not the only way that you can set up servers with custom tracks in Trackmania, but it is the most interesting way to do it. So this beta doesn't have that. It doesn't seem to, I didn't see any custom skins on cars. And so I wonder if that's, if what they're going to do with user generated content in terms of, you know, what they allow on console versus what's allowed on PC. That's maybe my only concern with it. It plays fine. It has seemingly all of the modes and options for playing it as the same as the PC version of Trackmania does, and everything else. But yeah, like I wonder, you know, and again, it's a technical test. I don't know if they've gone on the record and said, no, you will not be able to do any of that stuff in the console version of the game or not. I need to look and see what if they've had anything to say about it. But so far, like, that was my experience with their technical test. It was like, oh, this is not quite the full game. It's like it's missing some customization options. It's missing some of the you know, the dedicated server stuff. But I did see hooks in there for where it looks like you would pick skins from a club, and those are custom made, user made skins. So I'm thinking that'll be in there, but we'll see. I don't know. Other than that, hey, it's Trackmania, which is to say it's fantastic. That new season, they do a seasonal thing there where they roll out a new single player campaign of tracks every 3 months or so, and they're about 10 days away from that next season. So, you know, time to jump back into Trackmania for a little bit there. And yeah, I'm going to do that. Why don't we get on to a little bit of the news? Hi. Electronic Arts is in the news this morning, as they have posted an update. You can tell when the updates are negative here, because they don't attribute them to a single person. This comes from the DICE and Battlefield teams, is how they've signed it. They have a post up here that says Battlefield Legacy sunsetting announcement. They are going to start shutting down Battlefield 1943, Battlefield Bad Company 1, Battlefield Bad Company 2, and Mirror's Edge. As of April 28th, you will not be able to buy those from digital storefronts. They will take them out of stores at that time and remove them from purchase. Some of those games have physical copies and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's still ways to probably get your hands on that game afterwards. But yeah, then they are also going to turn off the online services for all of those games on December 8th of this year. Now, if you still have Bad Company 1 and 2 or Mirror's Edge, the single player stuff and the offline stuff will still work. That's not going away. You know, it's not like you'll launch it and not be able to play the campaign. But they will take it off sale, which I guess, you know, hey, if you're shutting down half of the game, you do have to sit there and go like, should we keep selling it or not? I would think you would go the route of putting a big notice on it that says, this is only a single player game now, and it's $4 or $3, you know, or whatever it is, and just keep selling it. But for whatever reason, they're not doing that. Mirror's Edge had some kind of. Did Mirror's Edge have some kind of multiplayer thing? I remember them doing some kind of multiplayer aspect of that game that was not the reason why you were there. It was just, yeah, leaderboards and ghosts. So really minor stuff. Yeah, that seems like something that they could just leave in, or rather something they could just keep selling with a notice that says the leaderboard stuff is no longer there. Bad Company. no one's playing those games. I'm sure that there's maybe like a diehard dozen people, the dirty dozen, and they're playing Bad Company 2 once a month or once every 4 months. They just go like, oh, right, that game. Let's fire it up and see if anyone's playing it. Nope. Oh, well, I'm sure someone is trying, but like, it's not like they were, I bet that they were not seeing large player bases on any of these games. Battlefield 1943 was that console only one that, kind of, I remember that game kind of coming and going. I don't remember that game being especially popular. It was a console only game. It was a digital only game. 99 players on Bad Company 2 on Steam right now, according to chat. Well, I'm sure after the announcement, people went like, shit, and then downloaded it and fired it up. So hard to say there. But, this stuff just underscores like, hey, is there a way for us to do better? And the answer is obviously yes. But how much work does it take for them to do better? If especially DICE seems like they're maybe a little busy right now with whatever, the last several games they released are still on fire. So dedicating someone's time to going in and patching out the online stuff in Mirror's Edge, a game that is not selling any meaningful number of copies right now anyway, it's much easier for them to just look at those numbers and go like, it's not worth it for us to put in the engineering efforts to patch this stuff out and test it and make sure it works and whatever else. It's easier for us to just take it off sale and be done with it. The people who bought that game bought it already. And it's frustrating because I think, it'd be nice to think that like all games should live forever but Mirror's Edge is obviously a weird case, right? Because it's just fucking leaderboards and ghosts and whatever, and who cares about that shit anyway? But there comes a time when you're like, oh, okay, like there's, especially Battlefield 1943, where it's like, here's our online only, console only, download only game that no one's played in 5 years. We still have a server running over there. Like, why don't we just shut it down? This is something Nintendo just took down. What is it? They took down Splatoon 1 and something else pretty recently. I'm looking to see if I can find this. I was reading this last night. They took down Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon 1 for Wii U. And the notice they gave is it's for temporary network maintenance. But there is a vulnerability in those games. And Nintendo patched, this is a vulnerability in some of their kind of common server software. So this is stuff that like, this was affecting Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. And so like you saw a rush of games get weird patches like that are years old, and you're like, oh, Mario Kart 7's got a new patch. And you're like, what? Why? And it's because they were patching out this vulnerability that like, people could use to get control of someone else's console and install malware on it. Theoretically, the proofs of concept of that stuff, of the vulnerabilities, could lead to a lot of like, in some cases, it's stuff you could use to install custom firmware, and that's cool, because custom firmware is cool. But also, it would be a situation where you could connect to a game. You go like, I want to play some Mario Kart 7, and you launch it, and then someone bricks your console. Bricks your 3DS, bricks your Wii U, could potentially. That's the theory anyway. And so that's bad. And so they patched this in a lot of games. Mario Kart 7, Animal Crossing New Horizons, ARMS got a patch. Splatoon 2 and 3 needed patches for this. Mario Maker 2, Switch Sports. The stuff when it comes to on the Switch, it was a little bit less useful, but on the 3DS and Wii U, it was something that kind of blasted those systems wide open. I will grant you, both of those systems have been blasted wide open over and over again for years. And they still are, so whatever. But at the same time, it's a meaningful vulnerability. And so this is a tweet from the Nintendo, one of Nintendo's Japanese accounts from March 3rd, saying that they've taken down servers for Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon 1 on the Wii U for temporary network maintenance. So presumably that means they're going to patch those exploits out, update the client side, and do whatever they need to do on the server side to block it, whatever it is. But like when you think about why games don't stay online forever, why Battlefield 1943 gets shut down or whatever else, or especially some of these, you know, maybe it's something that's going to be a bit more of a hassle on PC. There's always the potential for like, hey, there's some vulnerability in here that maybe hasn't even been discovered yet. And we just kind of, we're not going to update it the same way Microsoft is done updating Windows 7. EA is done updating Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2. And they have been for a very long time. And so for them, it's like, well, this is something that could potentially surface one day, but also no one's buying it. And so they feel perfectly justified in shutting it down. Now, obviously that's bad because it means that, you know, well, the games go off sale, which is kind of neither here nor there, right? No, physical games didn't last on shelves forever either. Those games would go out of print and whatever else. But it sure would be nice if these games could be preserved in a more playable way legally and everything there. So it's frustrating, you know? And you would also wish that, like, hey, in this situation, why can't the developers just put out some kind of server code or release something that is going to let players run their own custom servers for Bad Company 1 and 2 without having to connect to EA's dedicated server? And I suspect the answer there is that those games are just not engineered in such a way that they can do that easily. And on top of that, these are all like Frostbite engine games, and I'm sure that there's some stuff in the current server code that they do not want to put out in this older server code and don't want players to get their hands on. So, yeah, obviously there's a bunch of reverse engineering efforts happening and whatever else, but you know, we increasingly see people running their own custom dedicated servers and people hacking things together. I spent that time experimenting with those Call of Duty games with the, what is it, X Labs that lets you run Call of Duty Ghosts, the old Modern Warfare 2, and is that it? There's one other one. Oh, Advanced Warfare. I think you could run on that as well. North Star lets you connect to custom dedicated Titanfall 2 servers, and that's pretty awesome. Because, you know, like, because think about that. That's the other alternative, right? If you go try to connect to Titanfall 2 right now and go try to play an official online game, there's some vulnerability in that server that, like, people can just lock up your console remotely. They can just, like, do something on the server end and fuck you over, and then you're like, well, that's that. And so that should just be fixed. That's something that should just be fixed. That's been the case for a long time, too. That Titanfall 2 has been unplayable. And that's disturbing for a number of reasons. One of them being that Titanfall 2 is an amazing video game. And it should not be allowed to fall into this sort of state of disrepair. And I don't know why that happens. You know, I'm sure there are people at Respawn, right, that like, hey, yeah, I worked on Titanfall 2 and it's very near and dear to me and I can't believe it's in this state. Also, they will not allow us to fix it because we are working on this or this or this or this, you know, or whatever. It's like, we'll get to it when we can, but also we've got season 16 of Apex Legends, or you know, like all that other stuff. And so it's very hard to go back and clean up your own old weird mess, especially when the community is kind of doing it with this North Star stuff. But that's really sad for console owners because they don't have that option, right? And the Titanfall 2 stuff is really sad. Because eventually they're just going to take that game down. You know? They're eventually just going to like, oh, well, it's been broken for 2 years, so no one's buying it, and we're not going to do the work, and hey, we're good. And they will take the Titanfall servers offline. And then you'll only have North Star. And, you know, eventually, if these consoles ever get hacked in a meaningful way, maybe, well, I guess actually the PlayStation 4 has been hacked. I don't know the, situation on Xbox Ones these days. I don't know that those have ever been really hacked. But anyway, maybe you could take a modified console and redirect it to connect to a different set of dedicated servers. Maybe that will eventually be an option for people that own weird PlayStation 4s someday. I don't know. But point being, people shouldn't have to jump through these hoops to play classic games. It's sad that this is a thing that has to happen. And I think the Bad Company games 1 and 2, that was some of the best stuff that they did with that whole franchise. But those campaigns will still be playable in some form, and they were really great, fun campaigns, and so players will still be able to get their hands on that and see those campaigns, which are really the cool thing about it. But there was like really good destruction in those games too. Like it was like a really fun multiplayer game as well. And then, you know, over time they kind of just, well, I don't know. Now Battlefield is what it is, right? So it's sad because Battlefield Bad Company 2 is maybe the best that franchise has ever been, campaign or online, whatever. And, you know, the online will no longer be playable. Not that anyone was playing it, but at the same time, people should be able to go back and see it. And it's sad that they won't be able to. I guess I should get some Syndicate multiplayer in sooner rather than later, because eventually the day is going to come for that, right? And we'll see if maybe, you know, like the console games will, well, I don't know. Yeah. EA was always a stickler back in the original Xbox Live days, because the whole pitch for Xbox Live was, hey, we're gonna keep running our own servers. We know, you know, or rather, the pitch for Xbox Live was we'll take care of the server shit for you. Just plug into our architecture, and we will handle it, and you will always have servers for your games. And EA was like, oh, that sounds awesome. We want to opt out of that as hard as we can. We want to how about no? How about we just don't do that? How about we stay away from your whole promise of these servers will just keep running and we won't have to worry about it? We would rather worry about it so that we can shut down the Madden servers, and make sure that people aren't playing old Madden games and that they continue to buy new Madden games. We would like to be able to, we want to make sure we want to shut down these servers. Like, they literally said, fuck this. No, we want to make sure we can shut this shit off ourselves. It's crazy. And so some of those games, some of those original Xbox Live games require more work if you want to try to bring them back up and get them up and running. There's a team out there trying to rebuild original Xbox Live for use on modded consoles and I guess eventually emulators. And that's extremely exciting. So, but, you know, to work with some of those other games that had their own dedicated server architecture and whatever else, that's going to take a lot more work than just making Xbox Live work. But yeah, I should check in on that. It's been a little bit since I looked. I don't know how wide open their beta is for their Xbox Live reboot, but that's pretty cool. You know, speaking of EA, this all kind of ties together, man, because like games today are everything's such a mess all the time. And I found myself looking at a trailer that EA put out for Need for Speed Unbound, which is the game they shipped last year. And this is content that I guess is hitting today as I go back and look at this. They put out a trailer saying like, we've got some content coming to the game. We're adding some stuff. It's Need for Speed Unbound Volume 2 is what they're calling it. And let's see what they say here. New ways to compare and compete in Lakeshore Online with the first free content update. The streets of Lakeshore just got hotter. Hit up your homies for exhilarating cop chases. Hit up your homies. Fuck me. For exhilarating cop chases through the streets and battle it out in packed grids in brand new rumble and endurance races. So they're adding like a handful of new races. They're adding cop chases to online, which I think it didn't have before. I believe they're adding a few cars. Yes. Let's see here. Take part in the new playlist events or put your pace to the test in the new hot lap circuits to earn the ultimate luxury ride, or take home a new custom build, the Lotus Amira Balmain Edition 2021. And then there's a new purchasable thing. You know how Forza has the thing that says like unlock everything for me? It looks like that they're adding some kind of paid DLC token to the game as well. I saw that and I was like, oh cool, man. Sure, why not? Like I'm done playing that game. It's maybe a little late, but sure. Why not put out some free content for Need for Speed? I didn't expect it. That game seemed like it was just out and done, and they put it out and they're like, here's our cool game. Anyway, it's not a big live service game. It's not like they're like, here's our fucking battle pass with cars. It's not, it's the game. It's the style of game that people who say they hate live service games and battle passes would go like, oh yeah, this is a game like the way they used to sell them. And someone in chat says all of that content really should have been part of the base game, though. The thing is, it is. I mean, they're not charging for it. It's a free update. It didn't happen at launch, and so, like, yeah, obviously the game would be better with more stuff at launch. And I didn't necessarily love the game at launch anyway. It's a little beside the point. But like the comments on this video it's a lot of that. You can't be serious. We waited 3.5 months for this. If this is the rate new content will be moved out, then it's wraps for this game. It's a lot of people going like, basically being like, I'm super impatient about the rate of free content for this game that is not being sold as a live service game that's going to have updates anyway. And it's not one of these games where they're just like, here's our elaborate roadmap. It's Need for Speed. They put it out. They're like, here you go. And no one, the short version is no one is ever happy. And it's probably different people, right? But like on one end, you've got I can't believe everything's a live service game. They're nickel and diming us to death with these battle passes. And I can't believe they're selling. How dare they sell shit why would they do this? And on the other end, you've got a game that's just like not that at all. They put out their update, which is like a minor thing that like I look at and go like, I don't know why you did this in the first place, but sure, why not? Yeah, go ahead, put it in. And you've got people going like, if you're not, this is a dead game. If you're not putting out more updates than this is a dead game. It's like, okay, so wait. So it can't be a live service game because that's bad, because battle passes and that sort of pace is bad. But also, if they don't put out free content at an acceptable rate, then it's still a dead game. And so there's no winning. There's no pleasing everyone. Like I said, it's probably, you would like to think it's a different crowd of people, but it's probably not in some cases. And it just got me thinking like, man, it fucking sucks out there. And developing video games must be a fucking, like, even more of a pain in the ass than it always was, because now you've got this endless flow of people who are unhappy with whatever you're doing to your game. Like if they had just not put anything out, no one would have said shit. They would have been like, oh, Need for Speed. Oh yeah, that's the ASAP Rocky. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I don't know, it had some cool stuff in it, whatever. And now they're like, hey, we're putting cop races in. I don't know. We put out a trailer for it. Cop. You guys like racing cops? And then people are like, yes, but no. It's like, fuck, dude. Fuck.
I don't know, you know, whatever. Reading YouTube comments is a good way to fucking drive yourself mad anyway, right? I'm not, you know, like trying to build any case study or whatever else, but it's just, I don't know. I look at it, my view on battle passes in a general sense, my view on cosmetic, and this is stuff that'll come up with Diablo 4, because you've got a lot of people who are like, I'm not even going to play the Diablo 4 beta because they're building in a FOMO cosmetic battle pass. And you know, it's like, okay, cool. If that's the stance you want to take it. I'm like, I'm not, you know, that's fine. I tend to look at it from the other angle of like, hey, this is a game that's probably going to get a lot of content updates to it that will cost me $0 because it is subsidized by the people that buy those cosmetics. And if I like a game enough, I might buy a cosmetic or two. I've been known to. But in a general sense, unless it's a game I really, 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 really like, I don't. And instead, I spent $0 on a game with after those updates. Like, I'll buy the base game and be like, cool, man. Oh, you put out another season of fucking, I don't know, what, devil wings or what, you know, oh, look at this cool arm. Oh, I can put cat ears on my Diablo guy? Wow. I'm not going to buy that because in Diablo, the guys are really small and I want to see what my armor looks like anyway. So I don't really want to wear cosmetics or do transmogs or anything. So awesome. If you want to subsidize years of updates off the backs of people who want cat ears, then fucking more power to you and them. They get their cat ears. I get my content. You get money. Fucking whatever, man. Right? So obviously, you know, there are angles of that start to get a little nefarious because you do have situations where, you know, you're releasing your cosmetic updates in multiplayer games and their kids are bullying each other into buying skins or what, you know, like there's weird shit like that happening too, right? I don't want to like just blow past that like that's not a thing, but that's not necessarily the main way that people are probably interacting with that stuff. Fortnite probably is the lone exception there. And they just, you know, they're getting hit with that lawsuit about all the dark patterns they used about purchasing and everything. So, you know, there's that shit there. I don't want to say that there's not stuff around the edges of this that is not done as straight up as it could be. But, you know, I think I wish more games did it the way Halo did it because their battle passes don't expire. And so it removes that situation of like, you have to pay the money, but you also have to play the game a lot in this 30-day window or 60-day window or whatever until the next season starts. And so you've really got to grind. If you want the top thing on the battle pass, you have to grind on it. So the way I would always approach that, if there was something at the end of a battle pass that I wanted, and I have done this in a couple of cases, you still level up the battle pass without paying for it. And then you go, oh, I guess I'll pay for it now because I see the things that I will unlock for this. Like if I give them $20, I've hit this level in the battle pass, I'll get all this shit. I actually do want this shit. And $20 is a fine price. And so it's more of a direct, I'm going to purchase this for this amount of money. Boom, 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 boom. You know? And that's been the way I've handled it. Obviously, children playing some of these games do not have the same money-mindedness that some of us may have as adults. And so they can be a little more easily swayed and so on. But again, generally speaking, it's not something that you have to fucking deal with. It's not something that, you know, like, it's not something that is, you know, you don't have to buy any of that shit to play Fortnite. And so I look at it in terms of the idea of like, you know, you can think of the millions of dollars that are going into developing Fortnite, you know, and updating Fortnite and how it changes and all this other stuff. And all of that is subsidized by people buying battle passes and skins and whatever else. It's a great deal for a lot of people who don't buy that stuff. It's an amazing deal. So it's a weird balance, right? It's a precarious one though, obviously, because If it wasn't, then Epic wouldn't be being asked to pay millions of dollars in fines for, some of the way they structured Fortnite, correct? So obviously there's more work to be done. But when I think about where we were with just straight up loot boxes across the board and the way Overwatch 1 did stuff and the way a lot of mobile games still do stuff, this seems like a pathway to something that is at least a little bit cleaner than where games were 5 years ago, 7 years ago now. It feels like it's been a while. So I don't know. It's hard. I can't just throw that stuff away because I look at that and go like, man, games were always very expensive. I think about the amount of money I had to save up just to buy a new game, and in the 16-bit days, how much of a and then you would make the wrong purchase and you'd be stuck with a fucking shit game because return policies were, had been stripped away from video games and everything else. And so now you look at it as like, look at all these games that are free to play, all these free to play multiplayer games that people just get access to for nothing. And they're some of the biggest games in the world, so they're getting tons and tons of new development and all this other shit that's happening with them. Like, it's hard to dismiss that completely out of hand, kids today have so much more choice in terms of what they could be playing at any given time. And parents need to be careful, obviously. You need to teach your kids to not fucking covet thy neighbor's fucking battle pass. I don't know. But, games go too far all the time still, too. So, like, Diablo Immortal looks like a fucking total shit show every time you look at it. You're like, that seems like the wrong way to do this. But yeah, I guess like I can't just like look at that and throw it all away, because I remember not being able to afford new games, not being able to, having to save and save and save to buy a game, and then buying a fucking bad one, and then being back to square one and being like, fuck. And looking at the number of different free games, different free to play games, different free to start games, if we will. I wish that I had access to shit like that then. God, could you imagine? Well, piracy existed then too, for depending on the platform, but it was very easy to get free Commodore 64 games. But you had to buy a disk drive from fucking some guy in Norway if you wanted to have the ability to play SNES games. And, that was I never had that much money to spend anyway. So, short version, it's a mess, but I also, as much as I tend to agree with people that are just like, hey, this stuff's all bad. Like, it definitely has its bad side, but I can't just dismiss it. I simply cannot. I spend a lot of time looking at games, thinking about buying games, buying the wrong game. Like, just it's part of why I felt so strongly about. It's why I still feel strongly about reviewing games. But the economics around games have changed so much, and games themselves changed so much over time, that like the usefulness of reviews is a little bit different than it used to be, But yeah, a childhood spent playing a lot of terrible video games made me want to, it was part of like what made me feel good about like, oh man, yeah, writing reviews is like, that's useful work for people. That's useful work for people to take advantage of, like, to be able to read this stuff and try to make more informed decisions. And try to take it seriously in a way that magazines of the 90s did not. Or at least if they were taking it seriously, it really didn't seem that way all the time. The number of times I ended up with games that were absolute dog shit, that got fucking 8s in EGM or some bullshit. And it was like, man, you guys are fucking clowns. Sushi X indeed. You motherfuckers. Anyway. What else is going on in the news? Valve has filed trademarks for the term Counter-Strike 2. And or I'm sorry, they have something labeled CS2. So I'm sorry, it's Creative Suite 2. Obviously, Valve is licensing Creative Suite 2 to go on Steam from Adobe. That's very exciting. No, what this is something out of PC Games N. The N is for nice, I'm sure. And Valve has been filing some trademarks that the numbers there are associated trademarks on the filing with serial numbers, and those serial numbers point back to the CS:GO trademark, and so they're trademarking something that just says CS2. And this has come along with other folks saying no, we're thinking that this game will debut under the name Counter-Strike 2, as opposed to what we were saying a couple weeks ago, that it just seemed like hey, we'll just call it they'll probably just call it Counter-Strike, especially because of the banner update they did that is just like Counter-Strike period. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe they'll just drop the Go even and just call it Counter-Strike again. I wish I had the kind of time in my day that these people who track every move out of Valve do. Think of how much I could get done. I wouldn't use it to track Valve. Oh man, I would clean out the garage. I would get so much fucking done. But anyway, when people are not picking apart Steam updates in the Steam database, they're finding Counter-Strike. They're finding Counter-Strike notices being filed here for trademark stuff. We talked about it, but I am really interested to see what the fuck Valve is going to do with Counter-Strike. I can't imagine it's going to be as exciting as like what people are swirling around in their heads and everything. But like, as someone who likes to play some of the fun modes, some of the non-serious modes in Counter-Strike, like I will happily fire up whatever the fuck they're putting out and play some goddamn gun game. I'll play some gun game with the best of them. So I find myself following this stuff going like, yeah, man, fucking Counter-Strike update. That's cool. I didn't like Counter-Strike when it first came out. Couldn't stand it. Counter-Strike 1.6. That's an asshole game for assholes. Everything else. When Counter-Strike Go came out, I'm like, oh, you friendlied this up a little bit, but it is still Counter-Strike. And I eventually came to terms with it. I was like, there's some modes in this game that let you respawn. Maybe that's all it takes. Someone asked, do you know if Brad Muir is still at Valve? Yes, Brad Muir was involved in the most recent Dota here. He was on Twitter saying that he worked on the most recent Dota update. So, my understanding is that, yes. My understanding is that yes. Yeah, so I don't know. It seems like maybe this is building to something we'll hear about soonish. Like some of those rumors around Counter-Strike were implying that we would see something either this month or very early April at the latest. And so I wonder if this is stuff that is truly right around the corner like this. I don't know. If it's just going to surfing right around the corner. We'll see. What else? The Strong Museum, the Museum of Play, have announced their finalists for the 2023 World Video Game Hall of Fame. They've announced a batch of games. They're taking votes. They have like an advisory panel, much like we do, and they're voting on it. But I guess users can vote on this, and if the user voting will be counted as one vote in the final tabulation with all of their advisors and so on and so forth. The list of games is widely varied this year. And here they are. Age of Empires, Angry Birds, Barbie Fashion Designer, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Computer Space, FIFA International Soccer, GoldenEye 007, The Last of Us, NBA 2K, Quake, Wii Sports, and Wizardry. That seems like a good list. I don't know. Now I'm sitting here thinking, do I think that GoldenEye belongs in a video game Hall of Fame? I suppose so. I suppose it does. I suppose, the things it did at the time for just really just like, it's like the level structure was cool and the location specific damage was neat and all of that. But again, as we've discussed, if you were playing shooters on a wider range of devices than just an N64, GoldenEye was significantly less cool. But sure, yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing, right? It's no Quake. How about that? Quake, also a finalist here. Though they tend to look at these things as franchises. The way that they talk about Quake in their little write-up is like, well, no, the write-up for Quake actually is very focused on Quake. The revolutionary Quake game code has been linked to dozens of other games and continues to be used in some modern games nearly 30 years after its release. But like NBA 2K, they're not really talking about the first NBA 2K. They're not talking about Sega's NBA 2K here. They've got pictures of the most recent game. They've got pictures, the whole thing. When they talk about Wizardry, though, they do seem to, it does say Wizardry spawned numerous sequels and helped inspire future game designers. It's they're kind of addressing that it is a franchise, but the picture of FIFA shows the first FIFA and also FIFA 23. So, which I guess makes sense for sports games. Angry Birds is a bit of a funny one considering all the stuff. I don't know if you've heard about this, but I guess at some point they updated Angry Birds to Angry Birds 2 or whatever it was and threw in a bunch of mobile game shit into it that people were not a fan of. And they're like, man, I just want to play original ass Angry Birds. And so they said, okay, we'll bring back Angry Birds and we'll just let you buy it for one price. And then that was destroying their search results on the App Store in such a way that it was hurting the sales of or the downloads of their most recent Angry Birds game. And so they're like, we need to take this out of the store. It's fucking us over. Which is pretty funny. But these probably all deserve to be in there in some way. I don't know. I don't know a goddamn thing about Barbie Fashion Designer. It came out in 96. It proved that a computer game targeted to young girls could succeed, selling over 500,000 copies in 2 months. Wow. Barbie Fashion Designer was also innovative in bridging the gap between the digital and the physical, allowing players to design clothes for their Barbie and print them on special fabric. That's kind of cool. That sounds pretty fucking neat. So yeah, I don't know. That seems like it would make sense to be in there. Let's view the inductees here on their website and look at we talked about this when it happened, but let's look at the games that were inducted in 2022. It was Sid Meier's Civilization, Ms. Pac-Man, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Dance Dance Revolution. I don't think you could argue against any one of those 4 games not belonging in there. That makes a ton of sense. What do they do for 2021? Let's look. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? StarCraft, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and Animal Crossing. Yep. Sure. Yeah. Why would, yes, those are some Hall of Fame ass games. For 2020, it was Minecraft, King's Quest, Centipede, and Bejeweled. Yeah. Absolutely, you would do that. I'm not a huge King's Quest fan, but hey. Of course it belongs in a Hall of Fame. Bejeweled, yeah. Bejeweled was a movement, man. What about 2019? Super Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat, Microsoft Solitaire, and Colossal Cave Adventure. Yeah. Not a lot of people talking about Colossal Cave Adventure these days, but that's pretty cool. Mario Kart, hey. Those games are bad, but what are you going to do? My daughter has started playing Mario Kart 7 because she loves to exploit other people's consoles. And, because I had my other 3DS out and it happened to have Mario Kart on it. And I was like, here, check this out. Because she had only played the GBA game. And so I was like, look at this. Look at this one. And she's like, wow. Whoa. She still can't drive real good. But she's enjoying not driving in it. And she likes to play as the princess. That's about it. I wish I could unlock all the tracks. I should unlock all the tracks for her. And because I don't think Mario Kart 7, at least at the start, does not have a single race mode. It only has the Grand Prix. Mario Kart for GBA has you can just do race one track. And so there's a much wider variety of tracks open to her at the outset. And so she'll say, I want to do the beach track. I want to do the castle. I want to do the ghost castle, which is that's not a castle, that's a haunted house, but we'll get into that when she gets a little older. Anyway, 2019, Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat, get both the MKs out of the way. Microsoft Solitaire, Colossal Cave Adventure. Solitaire, yeah, of course. Well, you're going to not put Solitaire in there? Come on. For 2018, we got Tomb Raider, Space War, John Madden Football, and Final Fantasy VII. So that's a specific one there, obviously, where they're not just saying Final Fantasy. Yeah, where is Trackmania in here? I feel like, can I get on the board of the strong? How do I how do I become one of the people, how do I become one of the strong people? How do I become one of the people that gets to vote on stuff and whatever else? How do I become part of what is it? Let's go look. Who are on the board of trustees? How do I become a playmaker? No, what is this? How do I become one of the people that votes on this stuff? How do I get in? So I can make sure that the right games get in here. We need to be talking about Mr. Do. In 2017, it was Pokemon Red and Green, Halo 1, Street Fighter 2, and Donkey Kong. And for Donkey Kong, they use a picture of that Coleco tabletop thing. The canonical version of Donkey Kong. Yes, Donkey Kong was a movement, baby. The original Donkey Kong was a way of life. Let's see, 2016, Grand Theft Auto 3, Oregon Trail, The Legend of Zelda, The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Space Invaders. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Sonic the Hedgehog in a Hall of Fame. I don't know. Surprise, surprise. I would put the Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack in some kind of Hall of Fame. But the video game? Well, I guess, look, maybe I would, right? Because you think about it. You got to, in terms of impact, Sonic the Hedgehog sold a console. Sonic the Hedgehog sold a lifestyle. Sonic the Hedgehog ushered in the attitude era of video games. Love it or hate it. And so it's hard to, I played a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 when it came out. And, because again, Sometimes you buy video games and you can't return them. But also, I mostly, I don't know, it had a cool debug mode. It's eventually what I spent most of my time doing in that game. And it looks like the first year they inducted games was 2015, or at least that's the first year they list on their website. And that is Tetris. This is, man, starting with bangers here. Tetris, World of Warcraft, Super Mario Brothers, Pac-Man, Doom, and Pong. That's like a fucking murderer's row of goddamn video games right there. They're like, hey, what are the biggest video games that have ever existed? That like were cultural fucking movements that shifted culture in massive ways. Yeah, how about Tetris, World of Warcraft, Super Mario Brothers, Pac-Man, Doom, and Pong? Like, fuck, dude. It don't get much bigger than that. What other games would you include in that? Like, what other games do you think fit in that list? Like, obviously, they've gone on to induct more games every year, right? But, like, these 6 games feel like they represent the building blocks of a goddamn industry. You know? Like, that's a pretty high bar. Like, what? Minecraft, I would probably consider for, like, in terms of overall impact, like, Minecraft probably goes on this list. The Sims, maybe. I don't know. I might go SimCity. Yeah. Do you put a fighting game on here? Does that? Because as much, I don't know. I have a blurred perspective on fighting games because to me they're huge moments in my youth. But like, someone saying Fortnite. To me, Fortnite stands on the shoulders of Minecraft. And so if you were going to kind of put, which is weird, right? Because obviously like Fortnite is not all building, it is building and shooting. But like when I think about, there are aspects of Fortnite and Minecraft that occupy the same spot in my brain, if that makes any sense. And we'll see, like the Battle Royale thing, like I feel like the jury's still a little bit out on that in terms of like lasting cultural impact. I'm not just talking about like the biggest games right now. Like Fortnite probably does eventually belong on this list when we look back on it, but right now I would call myself slightly hesitant about it. But Minecraft certainly. People are saying Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I mean I could see it. Again, like I have such a lasting relationship with Mortal Kombat that it's hard for me to kind of step outside of that and have like an outsider kind of perspective and say like, hey, does it belong on this list? Like maybe it does. Maybe it does. Does it belong on there more so? Yeah, like a Grand Theft Auto probably belongs on this list, like a GTA 3. GTA 2, you know, the near future setting, the Zaibatsus and stuff. GTA 2 is probably the right game to include, right? That's the biggest one. No? Yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat is in here. It was just inducted in a later year, as was Tomb Raider and some of these other games. Do you put Halo in? No, because you put Doom, because they already put Doom in. Like, there's no, like, again, like, Halo is a big thing, but I wouldn't, but Doom was a fucking huge thing. You know what I mean? Like, why not both? Like, yes, of course. But again, I'm not talking about do these games belong in the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about the 6 games that they started this Hall of Fame on are way fucking bigger than a lot of the shit that came after it. Like massive. Listen, I will read the list of games again. Like I'm not fucking around here. They are not fucking around either. Tetris, World of Warcraft, Super Mario Brothers, Pac-Man, Doom, and Pong. Like it don't get much bigger than that. You know? Like Tomb Raider is a big thing. It belongs in a Hall of Fame, but also it's a third-person action adventure. There's been a fucking trillion of those, and like, you know. Like, does Alone in the Dark belong in here? Probably. It's not in here. You probably put it in there someday, but is it on the level of these 6 games they used as the foundation for this? Absolutely not. Ultima. Is Ultima the number 7? Man, maybe. Wizardry's on the list for this year, right? So I would almost say Wizardry over Ultima in a weird way. But yeah, it's huh. Yeah, those I feel like those 6 games, like if you try to make the case that like, hey, here are the 6 biggest games ever created when it comes to, moving things for a video game industry or a culture or whatever. Like, to me, it's hard to get much bigger than those 6 games. Pong is the game that launches Atari. Pong is the game that makes Atari able to put out the Atari 2600 and all of that other stuff. There's Doom is obviously not the first-person shooter, but it became such a cultural touchstone for so many things. Probably Five Nights at Freddy's you put on here, right? Is that, yeah? No? Anyway. They're taking votes on this for another day or two for this year's finals. Again, the 2023 finalists, which I assume they will pick 4 of these out of the 12 that they have here. Age of Empires, Angry Birds, Barbie Fashion Designer, Call of Duty 4, Computer Space, FIFA, GoldenEye, Last of Us, NBA 2K, Quake, Wii Sports, and Wizardry. If I'm picking 4 games there, I'm picking Wii Sports, I'm picking Wizardry, I'm probably taking Computer Space. And I don't know enough about, like, I'm tempted to say Barbie because like their paragraph about it, selling the number of copies it did and letting you print out your clothes on special fabric sounds fucking cool. I'm tempted to say Quake, but at the same time, Doom is already in there, and I think Quake is a big deal. I think Quake belongs in here eventually. But is it the number 4 on this list? I guess so. I don't know. Like Call of Duty 4, you could make the argument that Call of Duty 4 is like Call of Duty 4. It probably is the 4th game because that game, without that game, you don't end up with people like developers of that generation cramming XP bars into every single game, whether it's a shooter or not. Like, it established so much in terms of the console shooter button layout. But you look at driving game, like Blur or whatever else, like all the driving games that came out afterwards that were just like, you're level 4 and now you got mufflers, like every game became an RPG after that. They were already on their way, right? But I feel like Call of Duty 4, by building the unlock system that they had in there, really recast a lot of game design for the decades that followed. We still see so much of that now, across so many different games, that it's probably, just in terms of raw influence, Modern Warfare is probably the thing there. So that'd probably be my 4. Call of Duty 4, Computer Space, Wii Sports, and Wizardry. I'm not even like the biggest Wizardry fan, but I think it, like that franchise belongs in this Hall of Fame. That's the type of thing that this Hall of Fame was built for. Like Wii Sports is the thing you look at and go like, how is that not in there already? How are we just now getting to Wii Sports? Like that. You might be able to make the case that Wii Sports is a game that belongs on that first list of 6 there, to be honest, for how big that thing was. God, Wii Sports. Ugh. And just like Pac-Man, everyone thought Wii Sports was a fad as well. Microsoft. You heard of these guys? They're coming out with a console. It's green. I don't know what that's about. But we'll see how they do. What's it going to run Excel? What am I going to do? Excel esports? That's not a thing. Fucking weirdos. This is according to Video Games Chronicle, who is parsing an interview with Phil Spencer, head of video games for the Windows folks, who was talking with the Financial Times. This is kind of a no-brainer, but it's still kind of interesting to see them out there talking about it. That basically, he's saying, we want to launch an Xbox-branded app store on iOS and Android devices, and that they are already working on it. They're already preparing for the time when this will be possible. If you look at the Xbox app now, you can install games onto your Xbox from the app. You can, go and download it and do whatever else. And obviously, you can do the cloud gaming stuff. It's easier on an Android than it is on an iPhone because of the way Apple works. But they can't sell games, or rather they won't sell games on these platforms because Google and Apple would take 30% of every sale, and their business doesn't work if the 30% is going to Apple instead of going to Microsoft. And so the quote here, so this is something that is likely to happen because of the Digital Markets Act. This is something that was signed into law by the European Parliament last year, and it becomes a part of law on May 2nd of this year. And this is, VGC's got their write-up of it that is kind of recapping the law here. The law will identify digital gatekeepers who are accused of using their power to prevent alternative companies from taking part in digital sales. Once the gatekeepers are identified, they will have to start complying with the act by March 6th, 2024. In Apple and Google's case, this will include allowing other app stores to be installed on iOS and Android devices. And so as long as this doesn't get appealed and there isn't further legal wrangling about this stuff, this means that, March 6th, 2024 at the latest would be the time that Microsoft could say, here's our app store, here's our full-fledged app, and now you can buy Xbox games directly from the app. You can do all the cloud streaming stuff directly from this app instead of having to do weird shit over in Safari, and like the hoops you kind of have to jump through to do any of the cloud streaming stuff on an iOS device is uncool. This is the stuff that will put Epic and Fortnite back on iOS devices when this rolls out, assuming this rolls out as intended. This will mean that all of the people that are out there doing weird side loading shit to install emulators on an iOS device, there will be someone will, whether it's Cydia or some other alternative app store will pop up that allows apps like that into the store, and then you'll be able to just click a button and install those apps. I'm of two minds about this stuff. One is that, I want to be able to do cool shit with my phone, or cooler shit with my phone, I guess. I don't know if you've noticed, apps suck now. There was a time when apps were new, when the iPhone 3G first came out, and we were downloading apps all the time. What were we talking about? We were talking about apps. We were telling each other about, have you seen this app? What does this app do? This app creates a message board every 5 miles, and so you can, if you're standing somewhere, you can post on a message board that can only be read by people 5 miles around you. And you're like, oh, that's fucking awesome. All right, cool. And then, Twitter took big advantage of apps. Obviously, Twitter existed beforehand, but there was always a new app. There was always something new. Like, hey, did you check this shit out? And Yik Yak is back. Someone's saying, yeah, bring back Yik Yak. Yik Yak did come back And you can download it now. It's just broken most of the time, is my understanding. But even before Yik Yak, there was another one that I think was called like Graffiti Wall or something. And I used that before Yik Yak existed. And it just, I don't know, it just felt like there was like, people just had all these dumb, weird ideas about what you could do with these apps, and they were all stupid. Remember the stupid thing that was like, and I'm sure it still exists somewhere, it's probably just you have to pay $19 a month to use it now. But it's just like, it puts a fucking beer on your phone, and then when you tilt your phone, it looks like you're drinking the beer. People fucking lived for that shit. People were fucking drinking fake phone beers constantly. You couldn't go fucking 50 yards without seeing someone drinking a fake phone beer and going like, check this shit out, bro. It was a magical time. Now, all of it fucking sucks. It's all the same bullshit. It all interacts with the same 9 fucking services. None of it is fun. None of it is designed to look like fun. It is all just a bunch of stupid shit reskinned over and over and over again. I don't think rolling out new app stores is going to fix that. But it will be a way for this Xbox stuff to appear on phones in an easier fashion and some of this other stuff. I think that's cool. But I also kind of tend to, and maybe this is just naive of me a little bit, but I do kind of like the idea of the locked down iOS experience in terms of it just feeling a little bit safer. And the kind of like, hey, Google is scanning these apps to make sure that they're not fucked up. And you're like, yeah. But what about external sources? And what about, because I've never used, I have not spent much time using an Android device as like my daily phone. I did for a few months just to like try it, and I fucking hated it. But anyway, point being, I'm always like downloading APKs, you're like, oh, I gotta find, because they rolled out Android support on Windows 11. And so you can install Android apps and some of this other shit. And they use the Amazon App Store, and they use a fork of it that has barely anything in it, because the stuff they've approved for Windows 11 devices is a very small list of things, and the Amazon store sucks anyway. And so I was like, well, I want to run the phone version of TikTok on my computer. That would be fun. And I don't want to install BlueStacks, because BlueStacks seems like a fucking massive weird security risk unto itself. And so then you're like, well, it's very easy to sideload things into this Windows 11 Android install. And so now I'm on some fucking weird site that's like, we got them APKs, son. You want to download these APKs? I'm like, yes, I do want to download these APKs. Are these APKs safe? And they're like, this is the safest shit. Let's put it this way. These APKs, they're pure. And I'm like, oh, well, if they're pure APKs, then I guess that's something else. And so that's just fucking shady behavior anyway. And you're like, well, I just want to use the goddamn TikTok on my computer because I'm a dumbass. And I don't know, like even just doing that and jumping through those weird hoops always feels really fucking sketchy anyway. And so once you start sideloading entire storefronts on there, or you've got people that are naive that are just like, I heard if I hit these buttons, I can play Pokemon on my phone. And I hit these buttons and my credit cards are all maxed out. What happened here? Whatever it is, I just, it's, there's going to be people that get scammed when this stuff rolls out. There's going to be people that get scammed into jumping through the hoops to go like, I just wanted to play the Pokemon. This button said if I click this button, then I can get all the free Pokemon Go currency possible. And so I clicked on all this, I installed this, and then it said install this, and then it said click here to get the Pokemon Go coins. And I'm like, I need my Pokemon Go coins. And then I click this button, and then now there's a skull and crossbones on my phone. And it says, welcome to the botnet. What does that mean? Where's Pikachu? What the fuck is happening? And so there's just going to be people that are not, they're not tapped in enough. You know, whatever. They're just not fucking tech savvy enough to avoid that shit. Yeah, exactly. And the skull on the skull and crossbones is laughing. It's going, welcome to the botnet, motherfucker. It's Easy E devil voice. Now that you got the album, what the fuck are you gonna do with it, bitch? It's just, you know, but it's taunting you about Pikachu. It's, you know. Dead Sec fucked us over again. So yeah, like that's something that will happen slightly more frequently if these devices get opened up. Obviously, Android devices, you can fucking root them and go nuts all the time, which is exciting. That's cool. I'm like, yeah, man. But then I'm like, also, oh, but I use my phone to fucking for credit card payments and all this other fucking shit that I don't want to get fucked on. And that app store is trying to fuck on me, and I don't want that to happen. So I just, you know, it's weird. Got to get a secondary phone just for crimes. So yeah, I had my crime phone, and I lost my crime phone. I'm looking for my crime phone. I can't find it. I cannot find my burner. I think the last time I had my burner with me, it was when I went to the Game Awards, and I don't think I don't know where it went, but I have a Pixel 3 that Google sent out when Stadia came out. They're like, hey, Stadia, you can play it on a phone. Here's a phone. I was like, oh, word? Okay. And then then Microsoft reached out like not that long after. They were like, hey, we've got a beta of the xCloud stuff that only runs on Android devices. Do you have an Android device? I was like, it just so happens I do. And so I ended up playing quite a bit of xCloud stuff on that Android phone and not so much time playing Stadia stuff. And then after that, I was like, oh, this is just an Android phone. So I took the SIM card out of my fucking iPad and threw it in there. And then I had a data-only burner phone, which is sick because I could use it to run Mixler and run live streams from the car. And now that phone and that SIM card is somewhere. So the other thing is like my son, my daughter before him, but my son now wants my phone all the time. All the time. He is trying to grab my phone from me. He's like, give me that goddamn thing. What's wrong with you? Give me this phone. And I'm like, no, I have to look at this. These ladies are dancing. You'll understand later. And I had this burner phone that I could kind of give him and just go, here, hold this. And now I don't know where it went. I don't know where my burner phone is. It's somewhere. I was looking at my wife's car. I thought maybe because I remember having it around the time of the Game Awards. I remember maybe I brought it with me there, thinking like, oh, maybe I'll live stream my drive back, and I ended up not doing it. But I'm pretty sure I was two phoning it at the Game Awards, which maybe that phone fell out of a pocket or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that was months ago, and so the battery's long since dead, and it you know, it's like, hey, we last saw it in the city you live in. And I'm like, okay. Well, that means that probably if I took it to the Game Awards, it made it back from the Game Awards, I guess. But I don't know where the fuck that is. And so I want to find that because it's a handy thing to have because it doesn't, you know, it currently does have actual, well, I locked it out, but like, you know, I was using legit accounts on it and stuff. Anyway, burner phone. And yeah, so I don't know. Microsoft can't be the only people out there that are just like rubbing their hands together going, oh yeah, baby, for this Digital Markets Act stuff to take effect. And it'll be cool to have the full Xbox streaming experience on all phones. And again, this will probably be the thing that leads to Epic launching their own store, and then they will have Fortnite back on phones, and then someone at Apple will just be like, argh! They probably already are. I'm sure they're like talking to lawyers going, shut it down now, find a way to fuck these guys over again. I don't know. That part I like. That part where Apple is like, feeling the fucking strain on this shit. I'm like, yeah, no, that's probably the right move. I should be able to do more as an iPhone user from way back. I should be able to do more with my phone. I used to jailbreak my phone. And I don't even do that anymore because again, like at some point it was like, there's too much sensitive stuff on this phone. And I don't feel like poring over GitHub repos to look at source code for apps before I install them and go, like, is this going to fuck me over or not? But like, yeah, when the ability to jailbreak your phone became available, I was right there. I was like, hell yeah, man. Let's get Cydia on these phones. We're going to install custom ringtones all day long. Fuck Apple. That was my motto. And then at some point, Apple said, all right, we'll add the ability to make custom ringtones. Sorry. And then there just weren't as many reasons to jailbreak a phone at that point, so I stopped doing it. What else? A dude bought out the eShop. The eShop's getting ready to close down this month. You will no longer be able to purchase games on the Wii U or 3DS eShops. That means if you want to get a copy of My Notebook Carbon, you need to act fast. Much like this gentleman did, Gerard Khalil is his name. He spent, and this is totaled up by him for a YouTube video he made, $22,791 over the last year, purchasing every single thing that was on those eShops. That is 1.2 terabytes. This is according to Video Games Chronicles recap of it. 1.2 terabytes of Wii U games and 267 gigabytes of 3DS games, DSiWare, and DLC. Now, my understanding is that this guy is running a YouTube channel that is large enough that he can kind of do that and make a video, and it'll probably work out for him. I don't think it's, Okay, it says here he raised funding for the purchases via sponsorships and will be donating the completed collection to the Video Game History Foundation, which I saw them talking about this and saying like, yeah, it sucks that someone has to do this, but also it does mean that there's at least one legal purchased set of these things out there. Because obviously, like if you want to use My Notebook Carbon after the 27th, there are ways to make that happen. But the chain of ownership on that is weird, and so the ability for legitimate libraries and researchers and whatever else to use those is kind of limited. So with this, you've at least got one legally purchased, legally obtained like dump of this library. And that's cool. That'll be useful. The Video Game History Foundation is trying to find ways to allow libraries because libraries can check out physical games. Like there are some libraries that have physical games now, but when it comes to digital games, this is something that would even apply to some of the EA stuff. Like there's no DMCA exception that necessarily clears the way for librarians to do this. Period. Like it's just the ESA lobbies hard to prevent this from happening because they're an organization that is not, they don't give a shit about game preservation. They're like, no, we we're going to lobby on behalf of our companies to make sure that this stuff is hard to get in case they want to sell it on them. You know, it's their rights to sell it later. It's their, you know, and so on and so forth. And so the ESA is out there doing everything they can to make this as hard as possible. It sounds like the Video Game History Foundation is going to be doing what they can to test that and try to make change there, which is exciting. And when and if they do so, this is a collection that, like, oh, you know, someone could theoretically check out a Wii U from the library that had these purchases on it. You know, of course, there's only one of them. That's would be in demand, I guess, a little bit. But, you know, for people that have to keep everything above board and have to be doing things in a legal way as a researcher and not being exposing themselves to potential litigation on their own, they can't go out and download. They can't just head to the fucking website that, you know, they can't fucking install FBI on their 3DS and just go around scanning QR codes all day. You know, it's they have to do things in an above board fashion. So it's sad that this had to happen at all, but at least this is, you know, at least this is something that's out there. The whole thing's frustrating. I don't know. But also, like, that library is interestingly smaller than I thought it was. You know, when you see it all, like, oh, it was about a terabyte of, you know, of Wii U games. You're like, oh, huh, that seems like it should have been more, but all right. For 20, when it was $22,000 to buy it all, you're like, oh, huh, that's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that much money. But then the Wii U didn't do all that well. Yeah, I mean, that's smaller than PS2. I want to say that's smaller than a PlayStation 1 library. It's about the same. I'll have to go look, but I think that's in the ballpark of the PS1 library. Respawn is opening an office in Wisconsin. This will be their third studio, and with it, this is going to be a studio that is going to be working on Apex Legends, which continues to be very popular and needs more people working on it, I suppose. And this interesting thing here is there's a quote in here about this is an interview and an announcement that gamesindustry.biz has. Let's see here. Yeah, Stephen Ferreira of Respawn says, we believe in Apex as a franchise that's going to be around for 10, 15 years or more, and we're excited to make that happen. Which is crazy. But also, yeah, I guess so, huh? Like, do you think we'll be talking about Apex Legends? Well, I guess, you know, they're talking about it as a franchise. They're not necessarily talking about Apex Legends : the game here. They're talking about Titanfall 3. They're talking about Apex Legends : Titanfall. Oh, god damn it. But yeah, I think that this franchise, this universe, has the legs on it to probably make it another decade or more. Why not? And there's a little bit of Ferreira gives some quotes here at the end of this games industry .biz piece, talking about the future of Apex Legends. He says, I'll just read the last handful of paragraphs here from this. As for the future of the game itself, Ferreira says, Apex Legends is at an interesting point. 4 years in, the game has matured in many respects, but also means the nature of playing it has changed greatly. And his quote here, for example, the game has gotten a lot harder, and it's a lot more difficult for new players to join into the community. But we still have a ton of new players every season, so one of the big pushes that we're looking at is accessibility. Such as Season 16's new mixtape mode, which offers a rotating playlist of previous limited time modes. The team has also revamped its first-time player experience, added bots, and found other ways to ease new people into the game. And then more from Ferreira. At its core, it's a competitive game, and we love that. So even though it's become more difficult as a new player to join, building out that competitive ecosystem to where you can really test your skills as an Apex player is something we're going to continue to expand on and unfold. Beyond that, I can't share too much here, but finding more ways for players to play Apex the way they want and have more options is another area you're going to see unfold over the coming seasons. We also have some big ideas for Apex as a franchise. I think it's so strong at its core that it has a lot of possibilities for where we can take the experience, but now we're looking so far ahead that I can't share any details. I think it's cool that that there is a long view on it, right? That it's not, hey, what's Apex Legends? It's a battle royale game. What are you going to do? We put in some more new characters. We're doing some more of this, more of that. I think that they're taking the right approach of thinking about it as something bigger. Because think about Fortnite, right? That's what does Fortnite do? It practically reinvents itself every 3 to 9 months, right? Where now it's like, I don't know, we got all these grind rails in here, and now the mobility is a way crazier thing. And they've had solo modes in the game as time-limited experiences and so on, and that's been where I've wanted to play more Apex. Is I remember, oh man, that was when my daughter was born and I was on paternity leave, was the same time that they rolled out the solo playlist in Apex. And that is probably the most Apex I've ever played. And because I don't play a lot of Apex, I am now intimidated about playing Apex because it's a situation where a lot of people have been playing it a long time, and I don't want to be the weak link on a 3-member team that's like, oh, I don't even know, what's the fucking meta of this game now? I don't even fucking know. Stay in the circle and murder dudes. I remember how I played Apex years ago, but it's been so long, I don't even know who half these characters are. And so I don't want to, I just don't want to do that, you know? So, the idea of them trying to find new ways for more players to play and everything, I think that's smart. I think that's cool. And then the idea of Apex as a franchise, it's really hard to have some of these, what is the future of the Apex franchise? Because that is something we would have thought of as the Titanfall franchise 4 years ago, and what does it mean going forward for them? I think, there's a ton of opportunity that, because they canceled a game a little while ago. There's other stuff that they've been prototyping and kind of gray boxing or whatever you want to call it. And that's how they kind of built some of the original Titanfall stuff, was relentlessly prototyping and trying to find the cool shit and having that shit stick, right? And that's my understanding of it. And so I think I agree that the Apex franchise can be a ton of different things, right? Because they now have a ton of different characters with a ton of different abilities, and there's so much weird lore that you could attach to that. There's obviously the Titanfall side of things where you've got mech combat, and I would like to think, and maybe I'm just being a fool now, but I would like to think that eventually they get back to a Titanfall game. I think it will eventually make sense for them to do so. But right now Apex is really rolling, right? I mean, they've I guess the thing is, do you think that does Titanfall 3, does a Titanfall-like experience end up being season 22 of Apex Legends, where they're just there are mechs now, and for the next 3 months you'll have mechs or whatever. But some of the stuff they canned about, oh, hey, we've got, some of these characters that we could turn into full-fledged games, and we could have story modes and some of this other stuff. That seems like the right type of experimentation. Maybe the project that got canned just wasn't working out, but I do think that there are, that's probably still an idea that they're pursuing in some way, right? Or still in some form. Because I think that there's too much, they've done so much work on this franchise, and they've done so much work establishing lore along the way, that I think they just have the ability to do more with it. And, even if, they go roll out some single player shooter based on Lifeline, just hey, take a character from Apex and spin it out into a 6-hour campaign or whatever. I think, you probably, I think that helps flesh things out in a way that probably helps people then get more invested in the core game. And maybe that core game changes over time. Maybe it's not, maybe Apex Legends isn't always the core game of that franchise, you know, because they eventually do other stuff. But I think, yeah, exactly. You look at what Riot is doing with all of their League spinoffs, not that they've shipped a bunch of them, but they've been thinking about it for a very long time. I think that there's too much there for them not to be constantly thinking about, like, okay, what else can we do here? Like, what other types of games could we put these characters in? What other things could we bring to this game that change it up and keep the players that are here engaged and coming back and, you know, purchasing things, obviously. And so taking another team and dedicating them to Apex Legends, I look at that as like, yeah, no, you need an established team to kind of focus on the core thing, and that then eventually tries to give you something else or some more bandwidth to focus on some of these other side projects or new things or whatever. And, you know, obviously Respawn's working on what they have, you know, the Jedi Outcast is, or no, what is Jedi Outcast? That's the name of that game, right? I'm not fucking crazy. It's the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Survivor. Let's just play Jedi Outcast instead. How about it? And then they have that for Shooter also that they're working on. So, like, hey, I don't really care about Star Wars, but I have had a pretty good time with the Dark Forces games. And so, you know, and I have had a great time with shooters made by Respawn. And so even as someone who is fucking not interested in Star Wars, I am still very much like, yeah, no, if Respawn's going to make a shooter, I'm going to fucking look at it. And also if you're making a shooter and all, you know, and not that it's necessarily, hey, it's Dark Forces 3 or, you know, 4 or whatever. I think the Star Wars universe and shooters have done pretty well in the past. So, like, I'm interested to see whatever the fuck that ends up being. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Respawn. I don't know. There's 9 different Respawns now. And, you know, but also remember EA, remember there was like a bunch of different BioWares there for a while. And then they were like, oh, no, you guys aren't BioWare anymore. You're Capital Games. I don't know. We'll figure something out. And also we're shutting it down. You know, being the darling of EA seems like it really comes with a fucking knife over your head, right? Like how long, you know, it's like, oh, well, we're out here at Respawn Dice in Stockholm working on this. They're just going to overbrand everything with Respawn because Respawn can do no wrong. Up until the point where they've taken on so many different teams and people that like, oh, now Respawn is doing a ton of wrong and now it's all bad. And and all our core people left also. And now core BioWare is not even, Mass Effect fucking Andromeda is a disaster. And oh God, this whole thing's on fire. Like, are they setting this whole thing up to happen all over again? But with Respawn? Hope not. We'll see. How long until they get handed the Battlefield franchise? Like the core of it. How long until like, Respawn's working on, well, I guess like, no, there's another, the Ridgeline Games or whatever is working on. Are they doing the campaign for the next one? Is that what it is? I forget, man. Yeah, Ridgeline Games, back in September, they announced that as like, oh, we're developing a narrative set in the Battlefield universe. So, but yeah, so exactly. With Zampella running a lot of that whole show now, like, at what point does it get rebranded in his image up until the point where, like I said, the BioWare stuff seemed really cool until it suddenly very much did not. And it was like, we're just going to take everything that's vaguely role-playing-esque and write the word BioWare before it? So, I don't know. Yeah, you go ahead and make your Warhammer game, but you do it for the doctors now. Weird. And our last story, this just got announced this morning. The Gears of War adaptation happening over at Netflix now has a writer. His name is John Spites? And he was the writer of Dune and Doctor Strange. I'm sorry, co-writer, I suppose. And now he is going to be adapting Gears of War for Netflix. This is according to Variety. He was Oscar nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for Dune. It's always interesting when you have these non-gaming publications because they have to include a paragraph here about how the game is popular. And in this article, they have given it a sentence or two. Now, with Netflix's hiring of Spates, Gears of War fans, who are one of gaming's most passionate fan bases, have much to look forward to, given the screenwriter's wealth of experience adapting major genre IP. So I put it to you, would you say that the Gears of War fans are one of gaming's most passionate fan bases? I don't know that that's how I would, I don't think I would. I don't think so. I think that, yeah, Halo meets that bar, but I don't like Gears of War in this day and age. And that's when Gears of War was big. I don't know that, like, I feel like the story beats of Gears of, like, were there that many people that into Gears of War past like Gears 2? Or were they just passionate about carving dudes up with a chainsaw gun? Like, that stuff's cool. I like Gears of War. I don't want to shit talk Gears of War. I like it quite a bit, with some exceptions. But especially right now, when there's no announced game. The last game kind of came and went. It was fine. I enjoyed it enough. But I feel like Gears of War hype is at the opposite of a fever pitch. People like horde mode. People like rolling around and shotgunning people from behind. But yeah, when Gears of War 2 came out and people were caught up in the story of Dom, that was the last time I feel like there was like a meaningful, like, the story is so cool. Gears of War, there's so much going on. And then like everything after that was like, yeah, this is fine. It's, you know, I'm not, yeah, I don't know. This lady's got a necklace on. She's like, I don't know. She's related to the bad guys. Should we keep her with us? Yeah, probably. All right. She seems to be hearing voices. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's just who are one of gaming's most passionate fan bases, according to whoever wrote this article for Variety. They don't even, does Variety even put bylines on articles? It looks like they don't. Variety speaks as one voice, the hive mind. The hive mind of Variety is convinced that Gears of War has one of gaming's most passionate fan bases. I don't know. Like, I'm sure people got the cog, the gear tattooed on them, right? Is that but how many people are getting those tattoos now? I guess is what I would say. Like, when Gears of War 1 and 2 and maybe even the lead up to 3, when those games were coming out, people were like, I'm going to go get one of those. I'm getting the fucking gear tattooed on my arm. Yeah. No, I don't. It seems like a cool thing to do. And then around it, I'm going to write, look at all that juice. Do they just call the show Gears? I don't know. The Variety article just refers to it as Gears of War. So I assume they call it Gears of War because you can't just call it Gears there. Game tattoos make you cringe. I don't know, man. I'm not opposed to, I'm still, even to this day, I would not be opposed to getting the right tattoo. I just haven't found the right tattoo. There was a little while there that I was like, I should get a Decepticon logo tattooed on my arm. And then all the Michael Bay movies came out and I was like, I'm not going to do that at all because they went and fucked up Transformers. So no, thank you. Bubsy tattoo. Come on now. Yeah, just get the MK logo tattooed. I could have. I was at that thing when I was at the reveal event for Mortal Kombat 11. They were giving tattoos there. It was the last event, not since like people were getting like Sam Fisher tattoos or whatever the fuck it was. Like Ubisoft had tattoo booths at PAX. And it was like, if you get a tattoo, we'll give you the game. I forget what it was. You got something if you got if you like, let us tattoo our brand on you and we'll give you something. I want to say it was the game, but maybe it was just a fucking t-shirt or something. I don't know for sure. I don't remember. But yeah, they were giving out tattoos at the Mortal Kombat thing, but I don't. I love Mortal Kombat. I don't have the dragon logo. I'm not that into it. I'm not that into it. And also, I'm not that into like ornate color tattoos. One color, black ink. I think that is, if I was ever going to get anything, it would be something along those lines. And so anything that's just like, it's Scorpion and he's got a, I just don't, I don't like that. Not too far from getting a yin yang. What if I got the Way of the Warrior fucking 3-way yin yang? The black, white, and red one. That'd be cool, right? Would that be cool? That'd probably be cool. Why don't we take some emails before we go here? Hey, podcast@guard.bike. It's the email address. You can send in your emails to me. And I will get them, and I will, and people will read them, and that people is me. This is a fake. This is not. All right, DW in Canada writes in and says, been thinking a lot about the EA Sports Big catalog lately, and I've been thinking about how EA used to make so much cool shit before Don Matrick came along and killed everything after Dead Space. Seen a few Twitter posts about EA Big doing well lately, and I feel like enough time has passed and enough nostalgia for the brand exists that we're about due for EA to do some cool shit again. Realistically, I know this isn't going to happen, and this best case scenario is that someone's pitched the execs on applying the live service model being used on Skate to a snowboarding game and calling it SSX. But even that seems like a long shot. I think the people are hungry for sick tricks, attitude, and DJ Atomica. We need it back. And the subject line of this email is, the people want freak style. No, the people want SSX. The people don't want freak style. The people don't really care that much about EA Sports Big. But yeah, a new NBA Street would be cool. Yes, it seems like there's a constant clamor for SSX to some degree. And I would love to see them make a new freak style. But that, just some good extreme sports video games, some shit you can kick back and put on some Sum 41 and have a good time. Those are the types of video games that are missing from this industry. They've been continuing to run tests of Skate lately, and that game still, the stuff that they're putting out and letting people test looks very, very, very unfinished still. But every time I see it, every time I see a little bit of leaked footage from Skate, every time I see just like, oh, this is some more footage of Skate that's not supposed to be out there. Every time I see it, and from the batch of the most recent tests, I saw a little bit more. I was like, this is looking good. This is looking good it looks like it plays like Skate sort of situation. The structure of it and what you do and warping around the world and how it's a big online multiplayer world and you can kind of build, and so people are always building weird things high up in the sky and weird Fortnite contraptions and stuff. Like, some aspects of that look a little weird to me, but I'm very interested in playing that game. I would very much like to play that game at some point. Because it looks like it feels like the old Skate. And you see videos, man, and this is, I feel like now a full third of my TikTok feed is devoted to skateboarding. And a lot of that is people actually skateboarding. And a lot of that is people playing Skate 3 or playing old Skate games and putting together the most insane lines and like cramming themselves, like doing the coffin thing of laying down on the board and then fitting through a tiny gap in a fence while they're laid down like that, and just doing insane stuff that looks so cool. And so it like all of that is combined to make me think like, I cannot wait for this Skate game to come out. They should put it out. Well, I don't know. They should not put it out right now because it looks super early, and we'll see how the monetization goes. And, you know, there's even in this alpha or whatever, they've got people playing. Like, you see a lot of the hooks for where they would sell you stuff. So we'll see how they do that. Hopefully they won't fuck it up. It looks neat. Let's see. There was one email that I really Well, I don't know. We'll dig through. There was one I remember going like, oh, there's one email we got to get to, and now I'm looking at the emails and I'm not seeing anything that fits that description, but whatever. Mike from Jersey writes in and says, what's going on with Trials? The dirt bike platformer physics puzzler Trials hasn't had a game since Trials Rising. I keep feeling like they're one great game away from being a huge hit. Why do you think the series seemed to fizzle out, and do you see a future for it? I think that last one was not great. I think the last trial, like Trials Rising, was like just not, I don't know, something was missing from it. It just, I don't know. I can't tell you why. It has mixed reviews on Steam, so I guess I'm not alone, but there was something about Trials Rising that felt very off to me. And just, I don't know if it was just like not enough, or they did too many of them too soon, or was Trials right? Like when they started focusing more on like the like trick system stuff and some of the other things they did in the last couple of them, I felt like it just kind of sucked the life out of it a little bit. I don't know. And there was all the customization, and I'm looking at this Steam page for Trials Rising and trying to remember what it was that pushed me away from this game. But like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't. The Futury one was at least like Trials Fusion. I remember enjoying that quite a bit more, but. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it sounds like EA has reversed its policy and said Mirror's Edge isn't going to get taken down. So maybe they discovered that when you take those servers down, it doesn't actually break the entire game. So, okay. But then, I don't know, Trials Fusion tried to do some story stuff that I thought was kind of corny. They did, yeah, that Blood Dragon Trials game I did not like at all. I remember that absolutely sucking. I remember that being like, man, you're really just running this fucking thing into the ground. There was also there was like a free-to-play Trials on phones that I actually played way too much of. And I never spent a dime on it because all of the things you could buy were fucking terrible. But it was like, yeah. So I ended up playing a bunch of that too. So like when I was hot and heavy on Trials, I played a lot of Trials. I got pretty into leaderboard chasing with a couple of other folks, and that was fun. And then it just kind of, when it kind of just broke bad. I don't know. I feel like they'll eventually have to put another one out, right? I mean, Red Links does still exist. I think. Yeah, Ubisoft Red Links is what they're called now. And they're in Finland. And they're in Finland, and they are working on Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Mobile and South Park Phone Destroyer. And they worked they ported The Division 2 to Stadia. Okay. Yeah. They have an open position for a Unity programmer on Rainbow Six Mobile right now. Okay, whatever. They're getting paid. They're working. And I guess like that's better than like, hey, trials kind of fizzled out, so we're shutting you all down. So, but that makes me think we're not going to see another trial. If you're asking when will we see the next Trials game, I'm going to guess maybe not for a while unless they can turn it into some kind of battle royale. And honestly, you probably could. And also, I would think that if we saw another Trials, the model would approach something closer to what they've done with Trackmania, because I think those games are of a type, you know, structurally and everything else that you could that you could do that. Let's see. Derek in Mesa, Arizona writes in with random questions about esports. Are player nicknames / call signs a gimmick, or do they serve a purpose in streamlining broadcasting, especially for those players with difficult to pronounce names? I'm sure it helps in that situation where you've got, you know, here's a Dota team from somewhere else in the world, and, you know, like the commentators are, you know, but like there's not that many Dota players, you know, they could learn how to pronounce the names, right? I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I don't know. I think it's just culturally part of the thing, you know, like people, when they sign up for their video game accounts, they don't type in, here's my real name, and I want my real name to be over my head when I'm running around shooting people. Like they just don't, and they never have. I've been of all minds about this over the years. I used to be, and I do think that it kind of, and I used to say that, like, hey, as long as we keep calling people fucking Goku brains dick fuck 18 or whatever, that like that's gonna prevent people from ever, like, it's gonna prevent normal people from ever caring about esports, you know, when you're just like, all right, and now here's fucking Vape Wings 420, you know, like whatever it is. When everyone's got their own dumb nicknames and stuff, like you're gonna really lose the mainstream audience there. But also, you know, I think the thing that's changed is I think that I have realized, and I think maybe some people in the esports space have maybe figured it out, you're never gonna get those fucking people. It's until enough time has passed that all the people that are not interested in video games are dead. You know? Culturally, that will continue to shift, right? As the, you know, there's people get older and people age out, and, you know, who is still watching mainstream sporting events anyway? Like, that's not, you know, no one's fucking. What are the ratings like for baseball these days? Not counting the World Baseball Classic, which is sounds like a fucking banger, that Japan-Mexico game. But anyway, it's. So I was always very much against it because it just always sounded fucking stupid. And I was just like, this is never gonna, like, this is very hard to make this a thing if people just look at it and go, ugh, who are these fucking children with these dumb fake names? And I think that also applied to me outside of esports when it came to just like, what name are you professionally known as? You know, for me, it was never an option. No one, you know, it wasn't like in the early GameSpot days, someone was like, do you want to, you know, put your cool fucking, do you want to be, Hard Pants 83. I just read the latest review from Hard Pants 83, and he's fucking really barking up the wrong tree with this Twilight Princess thing. I don't know. And so, you know, it was just, but I think even if it was an option, I don't think I ever would have taken it, because like I came up in an era when it was embarrassing to say your modem names out loud. You know, when you had to go to the social thing with the other people from the BBS and people started calling each other by their fucking modem names, and you're like, I don't fucking like this, man. I don't like this at all. But now I think enough time has passed. And also, I guess, like, my other thing is, like, fuck it. I think people should be able to choose their own name. You know, I think that if people want to have an identity, whether it's something they only go by online or they want to change their legal fucking name to whatever, I think they should be able to do that for any reason they want, you know? And I think that's something that, you know, obviously I think that's something that makes a ton of sense when we talk about trans people and all that sort of stuff. But I think in a more general sense, anyone should be able to fucking change their name whenever. And there should be a process for that, and just fucking be done with it. And I think it's, you know, the idea of your legal fucking, oh, what's your government name? Like, fuck, you know, fuck that. Here's what the government knows me as. I just change those to fucking numbers anyway. We're most of the way there anyway. So I think that's the thing I've gone through over the last decade or more, 20 years, whatever it is, where I'm just like, you know what? People can go by whatever they want to go by. I think that's totally fine. I think that should be encouraged. I think, you know, like we should, if anything, we should be accelerating towards more ridiculous and more outlandish names. If people want those. And I think, like, when people go and saddle their children with completely bonkers names, and, you know, everyone's going to have their different impression of bonkers names. But, like, I mean, when you go and name a kid Apple, for example, I was like, all right, well, whatever, man. If that child grows up, or probably is grown up by now, I don't know what the fuck, but, like, and wants to change their name and be like, I want to be known as Billy, or something even crazier. Like, I want to be known as fucking Dark Lord, fucking, I'm changing my name to Turok so I can get the free games, you know, whatever it is. Like, you know, then they should. That's their business. They should be able to do it. And when they introduce themselves and say, this is my name, you just go like, cool, man, whatever. That's fine. And yeah, so I yeah, more people should be changing their name to their modem names. And we should all be wearing much cooler fucking weird anime clothing, and, you know, like, whatever else. Like people are fucking boring, is, I guess, my point. You know, people just go for it. We should be able to go for it. But we should be able to go for it as individuals. And parents, everyone should get one free name change, just like fucking Xbox Live. When you turn 18, you should be able to go like, hey, yeah, this is what my parents named me. It sucks. They named me a bunch of fucking letters that don't even exist, and I just want to be Xavier, or I want to be Billy, or just something even weirder. Like, you know, whatever, right? But, like, people should get to a certain age and get one free fucking name change. Like, my parents named me this, it sucks. Let me fucking fix it. And maybe you earn another one at, like, age 35. Like, yeah, you know, it's like, oh, I've had some more time to think about it, and I'm going to change it to this. And, you know, no questions asked. Or whatever, no questions asked. Just let people fucking do it, you know, whatever. But yeah. There were other questions here. Is it, and one of them is, how do you spell esports? Is it capital E? Is it capital E dash sports? E-S sports or something else. I feel like from a style guide perspective, everyone decided on all lowercase, all one word esports, no capital S. I think that's where we're at now with it. Much like with email, everyone decided like this hyphen needs to go and M is not capitalized because we're not insane. So on and so forth. And 3, you talked a while ago about the challenges of esports from a viewing experience, whether it is knowledge of the game, camera perspective, awareness, and more. Does the lack of a household name also play a role in the challenge of making esports more enticing to audiences, or is gaming just too widespread to keep tabs on all the different games, players, and leagues around? That was something I remember around the time that Street Fighter was on ESPN and some of that other stuff. And this is like shitty. But like that there was something on the part of like ESPN or like, you know, when it came to just like, what's it going to take for esports to break through? And someone was like, an American needs to be really good at StarCraft, you know, or like it needs to be hometown hero. It needs to be like this, you know, it can't be like the ESPN audience is not going to tune in to watch 20 Korean teams play StarCraft. They just have no connection to it. And so it was that idea of like, oh, we've got to have a hometown, quote unquote, player or team or whatever else, and that'll help it break through. And I think from a television production experience, I think I understand why someone would say that. I think that it is fucking gross and perhaps a little racist. But yeah, I mean, to actually answer the question, I think, you know, a household name certainly helps. Like, who's a star in that scene? In any scene, and in just the general esports scene, that human beings can rally around and say, I want to be like this person when I grow up, or whatever it was. And you know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. To me, Daigo is a household name in this household. God damn it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that only goes so far. I don't know. Like the esports thing is so. I just don't think it's going to happen. But also, I think the other thing that has been happening is that it doesn't have to happen. What does it mean to be on television? It's a fake goal to pursue these days. You know, like their audiences aren't on ESPN. They aren't watching fucking television on television. They're watching live streams. They're watching. I'd be curious to know, you know, especially with all these wrestling numbers and everyone, you know, and this is my kind of window into it, right? Is like the wrestling community online is still really obsessed with television ratings. And they'll be like, here's the ratings breakdown. We have quarter hour ratings. So you can try to infer like, well, which segment was on during these 15 minutes? And the number went down. So people turned out, this is that. We're talking about television ratings. Like, how many people watch television on television? How many people are watching bootleg streams of live sporting events instead of watching it on actual television? You know, like, what's the percentage, especially for, you know, and this is something that, when you attract a savvy audience, you attract people who are smart enough to do things like run an ad blocker. And so you get in a situation where you like, I've made a video game website that is appealing to a smaller, more niche audience than the big mainstream sites out there. And this is great. Oh shit. All of these people are smart enough that they need to know that they know that they need to run an ad blocker. And oh shit, how does this business work now? And so on and so, premium member. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's, So Now imagine you've got a wrestling promotion that is not the lead number one wrestling promotion. It's the one for people that are a little more hardcore, maybe a little more savvy, and that those are the people that are going to like, yeah, I know that I don't need to have a cable subscription to see your program, Tony. You know, like those sorts of things. Like how, you know, what's the real viewership for some of those shows, because they don't always get counted, right? But also television ratings, who fucking cares? Like instead you need to be looking at like, well, what's the social media chatter? Like what's the, you know, you need to find alternate ways of counting your audience, because that stuff just is fucking, I know, it just seems really crazy. Anyway, I don't know. Like the wrestling community is still really obsessed with these quarter hour ratings, you know, in the same way they have been since the mid 90s. And it's like embarrassing, you know? And so exactly, like now apply that to esports, and you've got a situation where like, oh, esports is going to be on television. No one's going to want to watch it there. It'll also have to be streaming somewhere. If Activision went and said the Overwatch League is exclusively going to be on ABC now, people will be like, well, fuck you. I don't get ABC. I don't even know how to fucking watch this anymore. Oh, I can go watch some bootleg stream that some dude set up over here. Cool. Let's watch that. Everybody get on my vent. And so we can go and see this stuff. But you know, esports is an event or whatever happening on television. It, you know, the audiences are so the idea of a mainstream groundswell, like how many things per year are still part of that big mainstream shared experience? It's like what, the Super Bowl? Is that even still doing the numbers it used to? I don't even know. Marco, I'm sure knows. But like there's just, you know, culture has changed so much, and how people interface with these types of events. It's why wrestling still matters on television, because it's live and you still get more viewers than you would think, and sometimes younger viewers than you get for your other bullshit programs. And so it's one of the few things that probably still works on television for a wider audience than like, I don't know, fucking 2.5 Men reruns or whatever the fuck it is. And so like now take esports, which is even further down a weirder rabbit hole. It's not native to television. Who's going to sponsor it? How many people are going to tune in? You know, are they going to be able to get a gaming audience to tune in to some fucking broadcast television, cable television, premium cable, basic cable, whatever? Are they going to show up in the numbers required to make that shit matter? No, especially because anyone doing those deals is going to go, oh, well, fucking, we need to make sure that we're also running streams on Twitch, because that's where everyone's going to see the show. And so they're better off going all in on those sorts of streams and then doing what they can to get sponsorships there. So the pursuit of television for esports is something that feels very dated and pointless now too, period. Because it's an uphill battle, because the people watching television are not the same people that are playing a lot of video games. So it's already this weird, it's already a weird pitch. And so, you know, the idea of like, we've got to get Evo back on ESPN. Like, no, it's that whole thing that we were talking about last week with like, oh, the Last of Us TV show getting acclaimed, and how that suddenly people are like, oh, now video games matter. I'm like, no, fuck this shit. Who cares? You don't have to fucking prove yourself to fucking television, mainstream, whatever. What is mainstream anymore? More people fucking watch streams online of shit than fucking watch most television shows these days. It's fucking insane. So the idea that like, you know, to be legit, an esport has to make it to television, that's not a thing anymore. You know, and there's still going to be people that are just like, you know, oh, we've got to make this happen, and oh, we're going to prove it to them that gaming is a force to be reckoned with. No, fuck you. You're already doing the numbers. Gaming was that conversation was over the minute fucking Grand Theft Auto crossed a fucking billion in sales, or you know, whatever it was. You know, when you're like, video games are, did you know that video games are bigger than movies? Yeah, I fucking did. Thanks. Because if someone puts out a press release every goddamn year about like, hey, did you know the opening weekend of fucking Call of Duty smashed everything else to shit? I'm like, yeah, no fucking kidding. They don't even send out the press releases anymore, because who fucking cares? Like, hey man, did you know that this video game, like, that's been for decades now. And granted, the video games are $60 and the movies are like $15, but smashed into dust. And so, it's not a, we're going to start to see more and more articles that are just like, gaming has arrived. Whether it's the Tetris movie or the Last of Us TV show combined with people trying to take some of these numbers and contextualize them and be like, did you know that there's an audience for this video game? Yeah, no fucking shit. We're done with that. We're past it. But, we're going to still get another 20 years of articles going like, video games have come a long way since the days of Pac-Man chomping those dots. Am I right? Like, we're still going to have to get, you're still going to see like someone playing a video game on television, and on the other end, you're still going to hear Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 or Donkey Kong for the Atari 2600, because those are the two generic video game sound effect packages that everyone just seems to have in their sound library for whatever reason. And I love it, honestly. Anytime someone's playing a video game on a television show and the sound coming out of the TV is fucking 2600 Pac-Man, I'm like, yes, fucking finally, yes. Don't update it ever, because if they update it, it no longer sounds like a video game. To that kind of, the joke doesn't work anymore, because how do modern video games sound? They sound like fucking movies. They just have fucking music and clangs and fucking sword clashes, like all this realistic sounding shit, the same way everything else does. And so if you just hear that coming out of a television, you're like, is he watching Game of Thrones? No, he's playing Diablo IV. Oh, well, I don't know. So you just need the fucking Pac-Man noise, because it's the 555 number. It's the fucking lingua franca of fucking video game sound effects. Dun, 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 dun. Pew, pew, pew. That's it. You're like, oh, he's playing a video game. Clearly. Done. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it all comes back to, did the Game Awards actually, I see multiple people in the chat saying the Game Awards had a larger viewership than the Oscars, which, that's crazy. That would be a crazy thing. That to me still strikes me as somewhat of a crazy sentence, right? But, yeah, I mean, sure. The Game Awards were streamed online, very easy to see. The Oscars were not. I saw people going like, oh, I want to watch the Oscars, but I don't even fucking know how. But yeah, it's worldwide ratings compared to ratings for the US. Okay, yeah, right. That makes sense. And yeah, I'm sure the On Cinema Oscar show probably beat them both. Anyway, I guess like that's all of this is tied together for me. And, like I don't know how many of you were there for the last 30 years or whatever. When video games did not have that mainstream respect, there's still a lack of respect from people in these other fields, from people in these other mediums. That still exists. But I think video games now have the cultural cachet and the numbers to back it up, to just fucking, when people do that shit, you just fucking look at them like they're fucking dinosaurs, man. What the fuck? Like, shut up, old man. Go to bed, old man. It's just crazy. You just look at it and go like, all right, yeah, it's cool that you don't like games. Like, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not saying you have to fucking like games, but shut the fuck up. Like games don't have anything left to prove when it comes to all of that shit. Like, what is it, when will a game win this award? Can a video game make me cry? Like, sure, people are going to have like artistically their high water marks for this and that, but like, the argument's over. The argument, in some ways, the argument never should have existed in the first place. But, a lot of people, I don't even apply some of this to myself, but like, there's a certain underdog kind of syndrome. There's a fear of success, whatever you want to call it, that I think a lot of video game people have had. And so you have a lot of people that get these chips on their shoulders from way back that are just like, see, fuckface, shove this down your throat. Look at our day one sales. Look at this. Look at how big this is. But that's happened so many times now with so many different games that it's like, it's not even a thing anymore. It's like, oh yeah, all right, another big video game launch. Like, it just fucking happens. The pandemic got us off of that because there just haven't been as many big games coming out, seemingly. But like, you know, it's easy to forget sometimes. Like, hey, to me, video games are the dominant fucking medium, and music is the only other thing that still matters as much as it used to, if not more. Obviously, the business of music has changed so dramatically over the last even 10 years, but you know, certainly the last 20. But you know, and movies and television have morphed into this weird thing now where all the streaming services have, and I wonder, you know, like sometimes I wonder if the bottom's going to really truly drop out of that stuff, because who's going to fund the big weird movies anymore? Who's going to, you know, like who's, you know, if Netflix is having trouble finding ways to green light riskier stuff, if you know, the people that you thought were like, oh, well, all this prestige television that, you know, for years was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so much better than anything that existed before. I'm on Netflix. And yeah, exactly. And now what's Netflix doing? They're out there saying, we've got 30 games coming out this year. You know? And I wonder, my worry, at least when it comes to television and movies, and or just like visual linear entertainment, whatever you want to call it, because like whatever, it's episodic or it's not, right? Or the episode comes out next week, or the next episode comes out 3 years later, whatever you know, whatever. Movies and TV, like what are the differences? Is there are we going to see a really big race to the bottom on quality with that shit? You know, it looks like Slap Fight didn't get picked back up, so maybe there's still hope. But like, you know, if Netflix is like not able to truly support the kind of big prestige television stuff that they were doing, and obviously HBO is going through $1 billion, you know, like the people, the companies that you looked to go like, oh, they're putting together a lot of really high quality stuff these days. If they're not able to do that anymore, and you've got Netflix going like, oh my God, password sharing is killing us, and oh, what are we gonna do? And then does everything else just become cheap reality television? And does that matter? I mean, or is that another generational shift? I'm here in a spare bedroom, you know, talking to you. A lot of things have changed about the types of entertainment we engage in these days. You know what I mean? Whatever. We could talk in circles about it for another 3 hours, but I'm going to get going. It's an interesting topic because I think about it a lot, you know, because a lot of what because there was a while there that, like, as I was spending a lot more of my time making video about games as opposed to writing articles about games, there became that desire for just like, we should get this should be on television. Like, this is as good as, if not better than, anything that's ever been on television about video games. That shit sucks compared to what we're doing over here. This should be on fucking TV. What are we doing? And that was the goal. Like, there was, you know, or that was not even like the goal we were pushing towards. It was just like, this seems like something we should be doing. And, you know, I was on television a bunch, and you know, we had a deal to put a bunch of our stuff on an early HD station years and years ago. So a lot of our stuff was on TV, and we were licensing our stuff to television, and just like tons of things like that over the years. I wrote episodes of a television show, which is kind of cool. But like, I just look at it now and just like, what is, you know, that feels like ancient fucking history, stone tablet type shit, man. So I don't know. It's all weird now. Let's get going. Everybody have a good rest of your week. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do some more streaming. We'll play some more video games. I don't know what, though. I did reinstall Jedi Fallen Order because I was thinking about catching up on that a little bit to refamiliarize myself with it before the next one comes out. But I don't know. We'll figure something out. Come on back. Wednesday, 10 a.m. We'll do some stuff. Hit up the Patreon. We're recording the next episode of Game Boys to Mend this week, and that'll be out the door shortly after it's done. What else? Glenn and I are still weaving our way towards the idea of starting a wrestling podcast. I don't know. 2 hours of talk about a giant panda wrestling. That's all I want. Head over to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann for more details. I'll see you then. Bye.